right, welcome. It's Monday night. Been a long day. It is 8 o'clock Pacific time, and I was like, you know what? I got some pizza tonight, and I was going to eat some pizza, and I drank some coffee because I did, a different show today. And then I was like, with show, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a review tonight. I've been meaning to do this review for a couple days now. What is it? The Messianic Mason, the MMM, was that his name? He did a really good review of this video, and I was thought to myself, should I even bother? I mean, TMM did such a really good review, and I only watched this video once, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it anyways, and so probably won't be very long. It's only a 7-minute video, so it'll probably take us about 4 hours. My voice is a little bit shot. I apologize. Let me know if you can hear me and everything's fine out there. But this particular video is from a channel called Repent and Believe. Never heard him before. This is the only video that I saw from him. Comments were not favorable. 4 a.m. Dang, dude. 4 a.m. Get some sleep. And it's called "This Single-Handedly Proves Atheism is a Fraud." And whenever I see something like that, I'm like, oh man, I gotta watch this. Especially if it's under 10, 15 minutes. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll definitely watch it. Expectations are low when I hear something like that. I was not disappointed. My low expectations were met. This is something to behold as far as this video. Now, this guy, I don't know anything about him. Could be a really nice guy. I don't know, but he is a follower of apparently Living Waters, which is Ray Comfort, right? And the Mr. Banana Man. And I don't know this guy's name. I'm just going to call him Repent and Believe because that's his channel. I got to tell you, dude, if you're going to be a Christian, more power to you. But just Ray Comfort is not the role model you want to be going by, okay? He is not somebody that you want to take after. He's not somebody you want to take up a mantle for. He's not something you want to have a righteous cause for. He's not somebody that you want to do apologetics for. He's a con man, and that's my opinion. That's my opinion. I think that he is very dishonest, in my opinion. And if you want to do apologetics, get to more of the old, Bible stuff, and I don't know, get away from this, atheism is bad stuff, because it's never going to go well. Sure, you might get some popularity because just you're going to have, some Christians go, oh, they're bashing on atheism. But overall, nobody's going to take you seriously. These groups are out there now that are just out there to bash on atheism or bash on bash on evolution is no different than the people out there just bashing on Christians. It's the same type of just base level stuff. And, I don't want to have a channel that does that. I want to be able to actually talk about the topics. People have been noticing I am tending more and more toward atheism, even though I am agnostic. I haven't left agnosticism, people, but I am weighing more on the position that there is no God as far as like the conventional versions of God. There are some really great people out there that are Christians, and I have a lot of respect for them. I really do. Eric Hernandez, for example, Cy Gart. I even like Inspiring Philosophy. Don't tell him I said that though. But for the most part, when I see a lot of these Christians out there that are just arguing young Earth creationism or flat Earth, they're not to be taken seriously. Christians out there don't take people that think the Earth is 7,000 years seriously for your religious beliefs. I'm telling you, or even more so, don't take them seriously for your scientific beliefs. I mean, maybe I shouldn't judge about their religious beliefs. If that's your religious belief, I get that. There are people out there that will say, look, I understand the scientific evidence points to an old Earth, but I'm going to believe that the Earth is young because of faith, because that's what I want to believe. Okay, you know what? I have more respect for that, even though I think it's still obviously religiously dishonest or intellectually dishonest to a point, but I have more respect for that than I do for Christians that are misleading people away from science in the name of Christianity. And it's infuriating to Christians I know as well, because Christians that accept evolution as reality, because it is, and Big Bang cosmology, which we're going to be talking about in a few here, they're also going, hey, look, you're not helping Christianity. Ray Comfort is not some person should be looked up to when it comes to Christianity. And because what I see more and more of is the Ray Comforts, the Kent Hovind, the Eric Hovind, the Cephalo Dollar, the Benny Hinn, the all the apologists out there, the very famous apologists out there that they're either doing it for the almighty dollar or ego, or both. Ken Ham, Joel Olstein, Tammy Faye Baker. Well, she's no longer with us, but yeah, I mean, it's just I'm getting a little bit more jaded, I guess you can say. Uh, when somebody tells me that their God, flooded the earth, which I know didn't happen, and they say, oh, if you don't believe, you're going to go to hell, which I don't believe in. I'm not going to take them very seriously. I'm not going to be even interested in learning about Christianity from somebody who I think is a lot more respectable and a lot more willing to put themselves in the position of being Christ-like rather than just be an affront to people. Because there are people out there that are Christians that don't sit there and attack people's they're atheists. It's like I don't attack people that are being theists. I don't go after people that just believe there's a God. That's silly. I go after specific beliefs. And the beliefs that I see people going after as far as the atheist, these people are wrong fundamentally on a very profound level. Very profound level. And so if I could understand the science decently enough to know that they're completely wrong about that there clearly was never a flood. There's clearly never Noah's Ark. There's clearly, the physics just prevents it. The heat problem prevents it. It's just insurmountable. It's intractable. It's unassailable. I don't think there's any possible way to ever get around the heat problem, at least not without invoking some kind of miracle or violation of natural law. So I think to myself, well, if they're wrong about this, does it make sense they're wrong about Christianity too? If Christ is who he says he is, then there should be other ways to know this. And like I said, I respect the Christians out there that accept scientific facts, that still have their beliefs. This is not a slight against them in any way, shape, or form. But the people that are dishonest, that are promoting Christianity as being unable to be extricated from young creationist beliefs and flat earth beliefs, yeah, I got no respect for them. And I have become more mocking. I admit this. I mean, I've been doing these reviews of like Jim Bob's videos. He finally blocked me today. Yeah, he's just so triggered. He's all like, Steve, that's a narcissist. I'm like, dude, not only do I not believe you, I just think you're an idiot. What do you want me to do? You're an idiot and you don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry. I mean, it's just that doesn't make me a narcissist. This means that you literally don't know much about science, not even the basics. He gets math wrong, gets biology wrong, he gets physics wrong, everything he gets wrong. And so if you get physics, math, and biology wrong, I'm going to probably be already prejudicial. And I admit this is a bias that you're probably going to have your understanding of Christianity wrong as well. So, all right, so let's get started on here. Now that I have my little intro, Kim Walker says, "My own jump to atheism lasted as long as my own egotistical leanings. I sobered up and I feel justified back to my Gnostic methods of proceeding." Good. Yeah, look, Gnosticism is a good position to be in. You don't have to like be committal and say, look, there is no God, because if there is a God, I think that God is going to be beyond anything that man even knows. I don't think that a Christian has a clue what God is even about. This is why they have so many different variations of God. This is why they have to be so complex in their, oh, well, God is, this particular property is, he has aseity, a sovereignness, he has divine simplicity, he has homeostasis, or whatever the hell he's, all this stuff they have to come up with is just adding more and more axioms to their ontology. And as somebody who's an unbeliever, I don't need any of that to be able to think and reason and to do science. I don't need any of that. So, hi, Captive Desk. All right, so let's get started here. Let me see what you guys think as we go on to this. Let's give me your feedback. The link to join is in the live chat. It's pinned if you want to join. Like I said, it's not a very long video. So let's go. Repent and believe.
Most atheists hold to some form of biological evolution. Many Big Bang models would assert that the universe is billions of years old and that all came together from one singularity.
Okay. I would agree with them. Most atheists that know anything about biology probably do tend to evolutionary theory. I want to grant this. I'm going to grant this. I don't think that's really that. It's not controversial. Because if an atheist says, look, I'm an atheist, but there's no, and I'm using the term obviously as there's no God, then you have to explain things naturally in some way, or at least in some other kind of way. It doesn't even have to be naturally, just probably are, but not necessarily. And so when an atheist says, look, okay, how do I explain biodiversification? Okay, what theories I got out there? One, I mean, how many competing theories are there to evolution? Zero. There is no other scientific theory. Just like he says, Big Bang theories. See, to me, there's one Big Bang theory. Now, there's different models in Big Bang theory. There's lambda CDM model and some other type of models. But I mean, these are all just variations of a theme. They all have the same general understanding that the universe, like he said, is 13.8 billion years old, give or take. It did have it did have an expansion period, did have an inflation period. And so, yeah, I'm gonna agree with them that atheists probably do tend to those things.
After which it started evolving over time.
Now, keep in mind what he said there, evolving over time. I'm not even going to have to point this out to you. Do you already see something going on here? When he starts saying evolving over time, as a creationist, there's a word that is used in fallacious reasoning that starts with an E that creationists tend to conflate terms with. And so just because the universe evolves, that doesn't mean anything to do with biological evolution.
I will be logically proving
Ooh,
why
logically
this
proven.
cannot be the case.
Cannot
and
be the
I will
case.
also be providing reasons why that even though there's enough evidence that
Mhm.
God exists, people still reject him anyway. Firstly,
All right, so this is his claim right off the gate. He will logically prove. This means there I can tell you right now there isn't. But when I heard this first time, I'm thinking, oh crap, this guy's gonna give me finally a logical proof that either God exists or the universe didn't come about by the Big Bang or evolution isn't true, something like that. When you say you're gonna logically prove something, you need to use logic, not just reasoning. You need to use actual logic, whether you use classical logic, modal logic, epistemic logic, diatheism, rational relationship logic. I don't care, but use some form of logic. Because if you want to run a modal ontological argument using modal logic, go for it. I mean, they're not invalid arguments. They're not convincing. Even if valid and sound, they're not convincing. But it's hard to determine soundness, obviously, with a lot of arguments. You just assume that the premises are true in an argument, but that doesn't mean that they have to be true by necessity.
claiming that the universe came from a singularity is illogical, since a singularity can create nothing at all.
Okay. Do you already see how bad this guy is going to be at apologetics? First of all, singularity is a mathematical construct. We don't even know what the properties of a singularity would be in an ontological sense. Would it have very low entropy? Yes, because the flow of error of time goes from low entropy to high entropy. Would it be a very hot, dense thing? Yes, if it actually existed. But even in Big Bang cosmology, they're not even sure such a entity called the singularity exists. The mathematics points to it. But what the mathematics is that there's a point of time where you cannot regress any further. You can only get near time equals zero. You can only get to time equals zero using what's called negative time in Hawking's was a Hartley-Hawking no boundary proposal, and you use a formula like the distance formula that you all learned in grade school. Square root of x plus y plus z, x squared plus y squared plus z squared, and then you add plus minus it squared, which is imaginary time, and this will basically get you to t equals zero. But before then, there is no time. Time didn't exist prior to this. So when you say it's not logical, what he really means by this is that he, one, doesn't have any of the actual reading done on it to understand the concepts, and two, it's called an argument from incredulity. He doesn't understand it, therefore it's not logical to him. But that's not when you say logical, it means you have to have a premise, another premise, and then a conclusion for a syllogism. You can have a single premise argument, but they're not really going to get you anywhere, right? But this is not a logical argument. Like, this is not explaining anything. He just says, "Oh, something can't come from nothing," which we have no idea because we've never experienced nothing. So this is already going south because it's one big argument from incredulity. If he thinks, and this is what I'd love to actually talk to somebody like this. If you think you're smarter than all the people that PhDs in astrophysics that study these subjects, and they can be shot down so easily, their life's work that they spent their entire time, in school learning about, if you think it's that easy just to go, oh, look, I'm going to prove that you're wrong because something can't come from nothing. If you think it's that simple, then why don't you have your PhD? Why don't they just give PhDs away for that? Why don't they just give degrees away for that? To think that you can sit and be so arrogant that you know more than the experts on this particular topic, that you just say, oh, no, this is impossible. Why? Because something can't come from nothing. Oh, like that hasn't been thought of before by some other creationist before you? This hasn't been, put forth before and shot down many, many, many times as a Pratt, it's called, point refuted 1,000 times. This is from 3 months ago, by the way. I mean, this is something that I would expect, a baby apologist to come on and start, practicing, maybe. I get that. And maybe that's what he's doing. Maybe he's just practicing by using these really bad, arguments that have been addressed a million times. And then he's going to, maybe give us something good later on. I don't know. I'm going to keep track. But so far, this is entry level stuff here. This has been stuff that has been addressed many, many times. No, you did not refute Big Bang cosmology because incredulity. You didn't refute Big Bang cosmology because, singularity. Show me the math. Show me that you can't get to a singularity by the math, and then we'll have something to discuss. I'm not that familiar with metric tensor equations. They're very difficult. I can look at some things and maybe kind of piece it together. I understand what a Hamiltonian operator is. I understand what a del operator is. I understand what a metric is, as far as like a tensor equation, as far as 3D vector space. I did take vector analysis, but I couldn't do anything as my life depended on it to actually do the math because it's been so long. But I can tell you right now, when you look at these equations, which generally speaking are mostly out of a lot of people's range, because Einstein's field equations are written with these things called I'm going to butcher this, covector and covariant, and I always get them confused. I never got them straight, never will get them straight. It's beyond my epistemic level to get them right, because it was his own nomenclature. Einstein literally invented this stuff to make his equations. And so until you start using equations to say, look, here's the mathematics, it's not going to get back to the singularity, then you really have nothing to offer. And we do know that the universe is expanding. We know that it's expanding and accelerating. So how does that happen? How is it that we can see the stars? We know that they're expanding. We can measure the Hubble's constant. We know what the expansion rate is. We know it's accelerating. And if it's accelerating and it's expanding, then it has to be contracting and decelerating, or negative acceleration, in the reverse time. It's just physics. So anyways, hi, Hank.
Hi, Steve. So I have a comment about repent, believe, and I have a comment on you. So repent, believe.
Well, hang on.
Is making a
common
apologetics error.
Hank, you're blowing out my eardrums.
Okay, let me
Thank you.
Down some.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yes, you were very, very loud. I'd like to keep a little hearing I had. Even Annis Frieda's like, you're too loud.
Oh, 75%.
That's much better. Yes, thank you.
Oh, got readjusted upwards.
Yes, 1,000 times better. Yeah, now you're intelligible. You're not clipping. You're not super loud. And I like to keep my high pitch hearing.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's make sure it's not some kind of stream that jumps it around. It's moving up. Let me check my StreamYard settings again. Let me do it.
Oh, you're fine. Whatever it is you did, you're working now. Or just talk quieter.
Okay, I'll talk. How's this?
It's fine.
Okay. So what repent and believe is doing a common apologetics error, which is bundling a whole bunch of things and calling it atheism. But he needs to attack atheism is just one position on one answer to a proposition if God exists or not. He needs to pick up like a worldview and attack that instead.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I don't know why his title is called this single-handedly proves atheism fraud, and he starts off with Big Bang cosmology, and they're absolutely unrelated.
Yeah,
you're not going to disprove atheism by having anything to do with Big Bang cosmology. Now, if you could show Big Bang cosmology wasn't the case, and you can show that there's a necessary causation, a first cause, and build a model up from that, Okay, I mean, at least it's going in the right direction against atheism. It would be construed maybe as evidence against creationism, or naturalism, which would entail evidence against atheism. If you can show that there, for some reason, there's more likely a supernatural causation, or our explanations are so hosed that we don't have any clue what's going on. Okay, maybe I might even grant you that, and maybe my audience will, maybe my audience won't. But let's just give them the most charitable thing. If somebody could show that evolution and Big Bang theories were absolutely wrong, you got come on, admit it. It would make some atheists at least probably pause a little bit more.
Yeah,
I think so. I think it's disingenuous to say not. Yeah,
I have a comment on you. You asked if someone could prove this thing, why don't they have a PhD? Well, it's kind of simple and complicated. So the simple answer is that schools want money, and they'll have as many possible barriers to someone getting degrees as possible to optimize their money-making function. So I know there was a time where all you need to do to get your PhD was get 5 papers accepted into just real recognized
countries. There are still
journalists.
China, I think, is one of those countries that still has that.
Yes, you just need to get 5 papers accepted to reputable journals.
Right.
But like here in America, you need to kiss a lot of ass and handle a lot of money.
Well, let me ask you this though, Hank. Do you still have to know the subject material?
Well, I thought so till some of these presidents got in trouble for faking their data.
That's true, so, but I mean, but here's the thing: that usually gets called out, and it does get eventually sussed out many of the times, right? And sure, fat data can be faked, but have you ever seen a creationist even try? I mean, yeah, maybe once or twice they've tried, but have you ever seen a creationist literally put a paper and show in any way, shape, or form, using actual maths, that the Big Bang cosmology is wrong? No, never, not once. Jason Lyle's argument is basically upon philosophy, not science. And he's not wrong as far as philosophy. I mean, we've known for years that you can only measure the one-way speed of light.
Yeah. And I'm not creationists use a cop out that it's a miracle, but okay, you could say it's a miracle, but now there's no business. You have no business in that.
Yeah, it's no longer
dealing with science,
right? So, I mean, but do you think Jason Lyle, right, who works for Answers in Genesis, has a legit PhD in astrophysics? Do you think he's going to write a paper on his anesiotropic synchrony convention? Do you think he's going to write a paper on that? No, they would laugh at him because, wait, we know this. This is not adding to the body of knowledge. All you're doing is pointing out something we've already understood since Einstein, that we can't really measure the one-way speed of light. That doesn't make your argument that the Earth is 6,000 years old true. It has no relevancy to that. All right, let's go on with this guy.
Since it is a singularity and is not intelligent, this singularity would also have to be infinite if it was what was in the beginning.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, we don't even know if true infinities can exist. So we don't know if there really would be infinity, but we do know that if all the matter in the universe was in one place, we don't know what state it's going to be in to even allow to existence. We know that things do break down. We have absolute certainty, as far as scientific understanding, that at higher temperatures, strange things start happening.
Well, singularity is a hole in a graph. In fact, Norman Wildberger
is a discontinuity. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hole in a graph.
Yeah.
When people act like it's an object in itself, they're literally just.
Well, that's what I said at the beginning. It's a mathematical placeholder, basically, what it is.
Yeah, but when people use it,
like division by 0.
Yeah, but when people talk about singularity as an object, it's literally a word salad. I don't care if a whole bunch of science communicators use the same word salad. They're talking nonsense.
Well, I mean, again, I don't know if there was an actual singularity or not, but to me, it's irrelevant. It's still a mathematical construct, and we don't know what happens. But when you start getting to higher temperatures and these Planck level energies, we do know that strange things happen, and we don't know the properties of things like gluonic soup. We don't know how these properties change when you have a low entropy, high temperature state. We can only theorize because we can't produce the temperatures needed to rewind the universe and say, okay, 13.8 billion years ago, everything would have been, recessed to the point where it's super, super, super dense and super, super, super hot, but we don't know what happens. And so I don't think he even knows his own argument here. I think he's just parroting what he's read off some Ray Comfort site, because this is all low level Ray Comfort level stuff. You agree with that?
Affirmative. In fact, we heard all this before.
Yeah. Ben says, I was the matter that pushed the singularity over the tipping point. Shouldn't have ate that Big Mac. I could use a Big Mac right now, although I just had pizza. I was like, screw it, I'm just going to splurge on my pizza.
Which is much less logical than saying God is infinite. If you claim that this singularity is intelligent, then you would not be an atheist, because this singularity would be your higher power.
I'm going to lose. When I first heard that, I only listened to this once, but I did go back and listen to that little part again, because I want to make sure that this guy's an adult. This guy's not a. I mean, he's probably in his early 20s, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I like to define my terms for a reason, because otherwise it's too easy to get confused, to go off into Gulag land and get ridiculous stuff. So, but he didn't start with defining his terms, and that's bad for his presentation.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, who ascribes intentionality to the singularity? No one that I've ever seen. And just because there's a singularity that something arose from doesn't make that a god. If the universe came from a quantum fluctuation, which again a paper has demonstrated is mathematically possible, I tried reading; it's way beyond my level, so I'm probably sure it's beyond this guy's level too. But I assume that people that have read it and that have concurred that yes, this actually is a legit paper that shows, given the state of quantum fluctuations in a metastable false vacuum, you can, in theory, mathematically create an entire universe. That doesn't make the quantum fluctuation a god. What the hell kind of dumb argument is that? I don't think I've ever heard anything like that before. That's not even a Ray Comfort argument, is it? Is it?
Yeah, I think it is. I heard that before.
Really?
Yeah.
That's just
but
silly.
I know
maybe I have, but I don't remember.
But I know who's not beyond this guy's level. Bill Gates. He's a crank, but at least he's good at the presentation, including defining his terms. So
doesn't sound familiar. I don't know who he is.
Oh, okay. You could probably be annoyed by him once you have time to look him up. But
you went on Jim Bob's panel the other day, right?
Absolutely.
And were you impressed?
I go on a lot of panels. He was actually good at moderating. So relative to other panels I've been on, he's good at moderating. So I would say yes.
What about the subject matter?
Subject matter? He wasn't as bad as I thought he would be.
Okay.
So,
I watched a couple people go on his channel today, and it was pretty bad. We did a review on it. It was bad. All right. What else we got here?
But if you claim that it is not, then you would be saying that something that created everything was unintelligent. Now,
yeah, what's the big deal? Why does something that creates something require intelligence? I don't understand his reasoning there. When it comes to determinism, that just means that there's a causal effect for something. When we're talking about like compatibilism, determinism, indeterminism, all that means is that there's an antecedent to an action, which I don't necessarily even ascribe to. I think that there are effects without causation, but be that as may, the determinist thinks that everything seems to have a causal chain of events. Each of those causal chain links is not intelligent. If a rock falls off a cliff and hits you in the head, was there any intelligence involved? No. What caused it? Wind did it or something. Shifting of the sands. These are all types of causation. Gravity. But was there intentionality to it? Did the boulder say, "Oh, because I got blown off this, ledge or something and hit the guy in the head, therefore it has an action ascribed to it that we say this was an intelligent agent that did this"? No, of course not. So why is he thinking that there's a singularity? It has to have an intelligence to it.
Well, he has a whole bunch of hidden assumptions.
A
All his
lot, it
work still
seems.
ahead of him.
A lot.
With all that put together, this is why if you claim a singularity created the universe and you still want to be an atheist, then you would have to claim that everything came from nothing.
No, and first of all, the singularity didn't create the universe. The singularity was the universe. There's a big difference there. The singularity is a mathematical construct that represents the universe at its initial state. It is the universe. But there's no time and there's no space.
Initial known state.
Initial known
could have
state.
had
Yeah.
other states beforehand, but we just don't have access to them.
Correct. Because time hadn't been evolved yet. Time didn't exist. But there could have been prior universes to even that in a cyclic type thing. But
Well,
in this Minkowski space that we're in the metric that we have for our universe, time and space didn't exist at that particular instant. Whatever happened that created the time and space, that created, the inflation, who the hell knows? Again, quantum fluctuations. But in this universe, there was no time and no space. That doesn't mean other universes didn't exist.
Well, visible universe. So there could have been time beforehand, but we do have no access to it.
Right. We could never have access to them. They're spatio-temporally isolated from us. Now, there is something called dark flow, which hypothetically, if there are some of these other universes still out there, they might have influence on our universe. But I don't even understand how can it be influential, but I don't know much about dark flow. Do you? I think doesn't know.
Negative.
Okay.
But we have fictional universes we do, in some sense, interact with. So we don't need fictional universe interaction.
Fictional universes are inert, right? Fictional universes are causally inert. Same with possible worlds; they're causally inert.
Unless we know about them, then they have influence due to the fact that knowledge seeps through.
Singularity, if it were infinite and intelligent, would be a god. The problem with
Why
the
would it be a
universe being
god?
created by nothing, however,
Who said the universe was created by nothing? Okay, a lot of my audience are atheists. Okay, atheists out there watching this now and replay crew, how many of you have ever argued that the universe came from nothing? I have never made that argument. Hank, you ever made that argument?
Oh, I made it before. Pretty much, I said
really
nothing's the background where everything happens, but it doesn't imply a creation. It's just a way to as a context, as a default context. So if we say it was created, you misunderstood. Have you ever, context.
Well, hang on. Have you ever said there was absolute nothing, and then somehow from that absolute nothing came a universe, which, by the way, is not logically inconsistent? It's not. This creationist is trying to get atheists to believe something that is not true. There's nothing in philosophy or science, well, it's kind of more philosophy, that says that something cannot come from nothing. That doesn't exist. It is a myth. So it's just a trope that's been put out there and people have repeated. But the reality is nothing has never been observed, demonstrated, and most of the time, nothing would be what's called ontologically parasitic. And what they mean by that is that, let's say you look at a thing of Swiss cheese. Swiss cheese has holes in it, correct?
Yes.
Those holes have to exist in something. It's ontologically parasitic, meaning that it cannot exist without the structure around it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if there is something that's nothing, it would be probably a void that is consisting of like a space of literally nothing with something else around that.
Yeah, I would say nothing's ontologically parasitic. So I say there's an object there that we're calling nothing for now because we need the event to happen somewhere, but that object is not the focus. So it's like if you draw something on the chalkboard, you have to have that chalkboard there.
Yeah, we don't know what nothing would be. Maybe the universe is designed such that, I don't mean intelligent design, I mean teleonomically, not teleologically. Yeah. But if the universe is designed such that by its own nature, it could not be nothing. It always has to exist in some form. Okay, that really does require, if you really want to explain full accounting why something has to exist. But maybe the laws of nature will eventually tell us this. Maybe we'll understand the laws of nature well enough to say, because of the laws of physics, it must always exist, and that's the best we'll ever be able to get. Maybe, but we don't even know if that's the case. A lot of people have been arguing that the universe is eternal in some way, that in some capacity it has to exist, and there are reasons to believe this. I am still agnostic on it because I can't figure it out one way or another. I mean, to say that there's a universe out there where the laws of logic doesn't apply seems really difficult for me to grasp. However, we also know that we did not exist for 13 billion years. Before you got here, you didn't exist. You were nothing. So maybe it's not that hard to imagine, from an epistemic point of view, what nothing would be like. But if the universe didn't have any humans in it to apprehend it, then what would the universe even be like? If nothing's there to observe it, right? Colors don't exist, it's color realism. Shapes don't really technically exist. I mean, to me, there is something about the anthropic principle that's really appealing, that, as I said in Babylon 5, we are the way the universe knows itself, because we are made of the universe and we can apprehend the universe. So we're the way the universe apprehends itself. That it does seem like the universe is such that it exists the way it exists, and we happen to be able to observe it that way. Because if none of us existed, how would that be any different than actually nothing to us? Relative to us, it would be nothing.
So I never searched such thing as an absolute nothing. In fact, I postulate the opposite. If we have to talk about something, we have to split it into the foreground and the background, and nothing's just shorthand for the background that we just don't worry about. The back is background we have.
And as Freitas says, created from is different than came from. Creation is an intentional act. Something that happens with no cause does not have created form, and that might be the case. I mean, to create is an intentional verb, but can something that doesn't have intelligence create something? I'm going to have to think about that. I don't think so off the top of my head. It does seem to me that Anasfreda might be correct on that. I mean, because when you create something, you're invoking a process to think, to reason, and to produce something out of your mind as far as creativity, to create, right? Creativity. So I don't think that it makes sense to say that something that is not intelligent can create, except in a teleonomic sense. Because, again, even though it's an intentional verb, the wind can create patterns of lines on the sand, like waves in the sand. The wind can create waves. There's no intentional act there. So, I mean, I really think you really have to kind of like suss out what you mean by create, whether teleological or teleonomic. Because an intentional verb, then yes, it would require a mind. But from an unintentional point of perspective, where you just have something being created by something else, like wind creates waves. I don't have a problem with that. But this goes to, again, teleological versus teleonomic. And this is where the theist here kind of like mixes them together and says, oh, it creates, it must require an intelligence, right?
Is that if the universe came from nothing, why do we have such order? Asserting that nothing could create everything that we see around us also goes against the law of conservation of mass.
No, it doesn't. First of all, we don't know what the laws are of nothing. Second of all, there's absolutely nothing in physics that has anything to do with the law of conservation of mass and energy at the Planck scale. We don't know we don't know what occurs at the Planck scale of the energy is so high at the initial state of the universe, that if these laws even hold together, we do know that there's symmetry break, and we do know that these particles can exist. They have to cool off to get to an energy level to where they can actually become an actual particle. This we do understand, because if the temperatures are so high, the nucleons cannot form, the quarks cannot hold together the gluonic structures. The gluon can hold together the quark structures, and the quarks cannot come together to form baryonic matter. This we do understand from science. And so, again, here's this guy sitting on YouTube thinking that he's disproved Big Bang cosmology, because of a grade school thing that everybody learns about law of conservation of mass and energy. That's not how this works. Wikipedia is not going to give you a Nobel Prize in physics there, repent and believe. And the fact that you think it will, the fact that you think you've actually refuted something by citing the law of conservation of mass shows you I don't think you even understand what the law of conservation of mass is. Because first of all, the law of conservation dealing with entropic principles only apply in certain conditions. You can add mass so long as it's taken away and we don't notice it. You can take away mass and have a mass defect, and that's how you have an atom. That's how the protons are held together, by mass defect. You can remove mass and convert that into energy, called the strong nuclear force. So no, it doesn't violate any of these things. These are principles, right? These are things that we observe at our current conditions of state of affairs of the universe now. There is nothing in physics that says that these law of conservations have to hold true at higher energy levels. If there is, I've never seen it. Has anybody out there ever seen any in physics that says at all energy levels, even on the Planck scale, that the laws of conservations have to apply or even exist? Or
I think we actually know it doesn't apply because of the universe expansion. At least that's what I heard last.
Well, but universe expansion universe expansion doesn't require energy. There's actually that's Gould's ultimate free lunch. The fact that it requires no energy to have universal expansion.
Yeah, but that's why the background radiation gets fainter and fainter and stuff like that. At least that's what I heard.
Well, yes and no. I mean, so the cosmic microwave background radiation is the afterglow. Think of it this way. Think of it as the afterglow of the original state of the universe from quantum fluctuations. So whatever the quantum fluctuations, like a snapshot, when the universe first started the inflation period, it progressed to where the light now reaching us from 13.6 billion years from our visible distance. These are the patterns we see when you look at that cosmic background radiation. They're highly redshifted, but we also see that there's actual fluctuations in the temperature variance, right? It's minuscule, very small, minuscule differences. Some a little bit hotter, some a little bit cooler. But those are the stated conditions from the actual initial conditions of inflation, from the quantum fluctuations. That's what's causing those variances.
Yeah, the energy went down in the light from the initial starting energy level.
Yeah. But space was rapidly inflating. So there was no violation of conservation of mass. So let me ask you, do you think this guy's ever talked to an actual physicist before?
Didn't talk to, or probably didn't watch any either.
Yeah.
Didn't read any papers. He did literally just talking points.
Seriously, I'd love to ask this guy, man. I left a comment, but he didn't get back to me. But I'm like, dude, come on. I didn't say this in the comment, but I'm thinking to myself, do you really think that citing Wikipedia is going to refute Big Bang cosmology? Does this even make sense to you to make a video like this, thinking that that's going to, nobody's ever thought about this before? I mean, maybe he, like I said, maybe he is new to all this. Maybe this is super new to him. But this has been these were things that were argued when I was a kid, and people go, yeah, that's stupid.
In fact, we could work the argument the other way. If confirmation of energy does exist and God doesn't exist, because he should have unlimited energy, unlimited free energy at that. So,
which we know we don't have, right? We know that 0 point energy is untappable.
Yeah.
Okay. We know that over unity devices don't work, will never work, can't work. So we do understand certain things, but the Big Bang cosmology doesn't violate any of that. It doesn't violate entropic laws. It doesn't violate law of conservation of mass. And by the way, there's only one isolated system in the universe. That is the universe itself. So
we actually can't confirm it's isolated or not, because we don't. If we can't move through it fast enough to see an edge.
But if we do attribute an isolation condition, it's going to be in the entire universe as a whole.
Yeah.
Okay. So in that instance where we're talking about entropy going up, we're talking about the universe as a whole. So any kind of entropic laws have to account for entropy as the universe as a whole as it moves toward a higher entropic state, which we know it's doing. That's the era of time. Time moves from low entropy to high entropy. So, yeah, this is like I said, this was why I wanted to review this video, because I'm hoping that maybe this guy Repent and Believe will maybe watch this and go, maybe this really wasn't the bullseye I was going for. This wasn't the magic bullet. I mean, and it's got 1,000 views too for 1K sub channel. Not bad.
Which claims that matter is not created or destroyed. Evolution.
Well, but he may not know this, but Hank, you might be, I'm sure aware of this. Do you know there are violations of that particular conservation law?
Absolutely.
Energy and mass can be created and destroyed.
Ever heard of nukes?
Well, that's okay, but I wasn't referring to that. But no, I mean, actually literally create a particle out of nothing, energy out of nothing.
Well, virtual particles, that's the variable that's
exactly.
created.
But it's created of nothing. But the catch on that is that these particles have to be created and destroyed faster than we can notice them.
Yeah,
that's
why
the catch-all.
That's why it's a variable where anything was created or not. So,
well, we see that though. We've seen virtual particles created and create real particles out of them. The Casimir effect is a real fact. We do know these particles do exist. They're not hypothetical. They're virtual particles pop in and out of existence. They create an actual particle, and the other particle goes in like the event horizon black hole. We can see the effect of these particles, but the law of conservation of energy and mass is allowed to be violated on a small scale. We understand this in physics. They're not immutable laws. There seems to be, minor technical variances. Like even the absolute zero can go lower than absolute zero in some cases, so long as it's not as a system as a whole. There could be localized lower than absolute zero. It can't be all the way. It can't be like the whole volume absolute zero, because then you would have negative volume. But just like speed of light, a wave, as you know, the front leading edge of a photon packet can go faster than c, so long as the whole rest of the packet catches up in c. So there are these little minor variances out there. The universe doesn't like things violated completely, but they gives you a little leeway here. So hey, this part can go faster than the speed of light as long as this catches up and there's no information transferred. Oh, you can create energy and mass and particles out of nothing, so long as they're destroyed so quickly you can't detect them. The math allows for this.
And is so often deemed scientific, but it actually goes against the own scientific principles that have been gathered by people throughout time.
No, Repent and Believe. No, it doesn't. I implore you, go take a physics course. Go study this stuff, because you're getting your information from Ray freaking Comfort, who is absolutely moronically inept in these subjects. Why would you want to talk about something along the lines of Big Bang cosmology when you've never had a single solitary course on this topic, it seems, or read a book on it? Why would you want to do that? Because all you're doing,
you actually don't know if he probably had some public school physics courses, but unfortunately those ones taught pretty horribly. Unfortunately,
I doubt it. I don't think he. It sure doesn't look like it. It doesn't to me. Maybe again, am I being an asshole? If I am, so be it. I mean, I don't care. I'm not going to change. But I mean, am I being overly, critical of this guy? Because the Masonic, what's TM's name? What does this TM name stand for? The Masonic.
Who?
Something. TMM. From
TMM.
YouTube.
I don't know. I don't know. I look it up. So I don't know what it stands for.
Man, I've talked to him many times too.
I'm not saying you're being too difficult on the guy, but he probably had a physics course, but it was probably taught really poorly, just like most government school courses.
Maybe. Could be.
Another common objection is people say, well, doesn't God have to have a creator? And he doesn't, because this is why. Time, space, and matter were all created, and there has to be something beyond time, space, and matter to create all things in the first place.
Why? No. Okay. First of all, it doesn't have to be a god to have some kind of a creation event. It can be done naturally. Okay, we've already shown this from quantum fluctuations. And it makes it even more difficult if there's a god, because God is going to be outside time. So where did he outside time create something in time? It's a very difficult question for actual Christians to answer. In fact, William Lane Craig has to use A theory of time to make this stuff work. He doesn't use B theory of time, which is generally the most common understood philosophy of time. B theory of time, which means that past, present, and future all still exist. They're all together one thing.
Well,
It's
you
not
could use
tensed.
you could use B theory of time and not have an issue, because like if you like a time travel stories to say all the change already happened, and you split the
And
you
still
just have
happening,
more
right?
universes. It's not really a big deal. You can still have your time travel changes. You just have to put in some other spatial area. So it doesn't make much of it. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, I mean, but
It's copyright right as we call in a file system space. So
the multi world
multiverse.
hypothesis. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, not the multiverse. It's multi-world hypothesis.
Multi-world. Yeah.
There's a little
But
bit
if
difference
you have copyright right, then it's not an issue.
Well, the thing with that is, okay, so the Copenhagen interpretation of the multi-world,
yeah.
No, it's not. It's not the multiverse. It's the many worlds.
Multi-world, I said.
Multi-world hypothesis. What that's saying is this: is that every time there's a collapsing of the wave function, a new world is being produced, and it works out mathematically. So there are other models out there that say the wave function doesn't collapse when you have a measurement. And when we say a measurement, what we're doing is we're observing the wave to see if there's a particle there.
The measure means interaction. So
there's an observation.
Any two objects interact with each other, that's called a measurement.
Yes, and that's a little. I'm glad you pointed it out. When I say observe, that is a measurement. That is affecting the system. When you're doing something to affect the system that causes decoherence, or you're causing the wave function to collapse. That's when you can observe an actual particle, because a particle is just a wave that you're observing. It's just a single part of that wave function that's describing the entire path of that photon or whatever particle you're talking about. So the wave function is the entire position, momentum, and all the things you need to know about that particular particle is information in that wave function. And it's all probabilistic. It's all, it could exist somewhere in this area. But where it exists, Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. We can't determine where it exists. But now when we take a measurement of it, we can say, it exists right here. But what do we know about the momentum? Nothing. If you know the exact position, you don't know the momentum. If you know the exact energy, you don't know the time. If you know the exact time, you don't know the energy. If you don't know if you know the exact momentum, you don't know the position. There's always that trade-off. But the multi-world hypothesis allows for these branching, but I don't think that's exactly the same thing as B theory of time when you're talking about the future and the past in this particular branch itself. I don't think they're related that way. And I could be wrong. I haven't looked at this stuff in a very long time. Because the past, present, future is basically, they're not tense. We're not looking at tomorrow or yesterday. We're looking at, the future's already there. The past is already there. We just haven't had access to it yet.
Now, a Christian would say that the original first beginning, the start of everything, and the beginning and the end would be God. But an atheist would have to default to nothing being the beginning. And
no. Why would an atheist have to default to nothing? I don't know any atheist that actually, besides, Hank's not an atheist, he's a polytheist, but in my audience, nobody agreed with this. I don't know any atheist that's argued this. Why would an atheist have to say we started with nothing? I don't even understand how this is even making sense to him. Now, I would grant him this: if God does exist, there could be an argument to be made. He's a necessary being, which means he's acausal, doesn't have a causation. He exists out of necessity as a necessary being. I can get behind that. That actually is not a bad argument, but then you have to explain why he's a necessary being. But if he is a necessary being, he has to exist. It could be no other way because it's a necessary being. Okay, but what makes him necessary? I don't think God is a necessary being. But if God was a necessary being, then he has no cause. Just like there are no causes of the laws of logic. This is where preceptors like Jim Bob and the rest of them, try to trip people up. Well, how do you account for the laws of logic?
I made them the fuck up.
They exist. They exist. And you could talk about these, Platonic realms or whatever, but they exist, and we describe them. We don't have to have an accounting of something creating them. They are an integral natural fact of the universe. That is an accounting. It may not be the accounting they want, or they think they want more, but there's a lot of questions they can't answer either. But it's the best we're going to get is this. They're just like, why is the speed of light the way it is? Well, it's just a part of the universe. I mean, you can argue all the other natural logarithm or natural units, and they are interrelated, believe it or not. You can, if you know a couple units, this is interesting. I don't know if Hank, have you ever done this, but I've done it and it actually works. But it was a very long time ago, so don't expect me to do it on the fly. But if you take certain natural units, like you have Planck's constant, electron mass, speed of light, gravitational constant. If you take certain of these units and you can use what's called dimensional analysis, you can actually find the values of other natural units. They are intricately related to each other. And you have to use linear equations and matrix theory to do it. And it's not that complicated, believe it or not. Like I said, I've done it. It's under what's called dimensional analysis. And it's really interesting because if you have 4 variables and you know 3 of them, you could deduce the other one by matrix theory. Interesting, right?
Yeah. Jan Massily did a video on this called "A Joke About Measurement." You can probably repost that to the public chat, but I do need to drop out. I want to catch a couple more Z's. I need to punch in at 3 a.m. today. So.
Oh yeah, get some sleep, man. Watch this later. Let me know what you think.
I had some sleep today, but I want to catch maybe at least a half more hour, and that should be good for today.
All right. Well, thank you, Hank. I'm not too far off from this guy. I'm doing okay reviewing him so far, even though I'm being an asshole. But it's late. I'm tired, and my coffee's wearing off.
I understand that, but this is stuff we debunked 1,000 times already. So
yeah, I know. I didn't want anything too rough tonight. Okay, I'm doing this by StreamYards. I didn't even do it through OBS. No offense, repent and believe. You weren't even worth OBS tonight. I made a really cheesy thumbnail, so whatever.
Yeah. So the whole point is for you to get you on here to talk to Steve directly. So
yeah,
come over here.
Yeah, somebody know this guy. This was 3 months ago, by the way. But all right, everyone wants to come in. Let me know. Here we go.
In the end. In fact, there is enough evidence to prove that God has to exist and evolution cannot be true. But
really now? So, I mean, these are very bold claims. There's enough evidence to prove. He already said earlier that he was going to logically show us, which I haven't seen yet, to prove that God exists. Now, this is what's known as a Christian talking point. This is just an argument by assertion. This is something that you would expect from somebody who follows Ray Comfort, who has absolutely no understanding what it would mean to actually prove something. Because that is a throwaway sentence. I've proven God exists. Oh, really? If you've done that, then why are people still fighting about it? Why are still people arguing about it? Why are there still atheists? If you can logically prove to me that God exists, where it's irrefutable, it's valid, it's sound, it's convincing, there's no other possibility. It has to be that way by necessity. Yeah, interesting. Then I think you've ended the debate. You've ended the discussion. Theists win. Christians win. But unfortunately, there really is no way to do that. There is no way to prove something like that. Logic isn't set up to do that. It can make a really good inductive inference, but it cannot prove certain things. It can disprove certain things. It can prove certain things cannot exist if they're logically inconsistent, like a square circle, because that is a contradiction. But there's no contradiction. Logic cannot show something must exist or must not exist. It can't. How would it go about even doing this? But to say that evolution has to be wrong when every single university teaches evolution because it's correct, you actually have to show why the evolution isn't right. Even if God existed, it's not going to disprove evolution. It's not going to do it. You could, at that point, you would have to merge the two and get the synthesis called theistic evolution. And there's a lot of Christians that hold the theistic evolution, but they do put the science, at least on a pedestal to say, look, this is what we actually see. The other one's based on faith. I just have a book that I've been told what is about God, but what is it that I actually see? Well, I see biodiversification. I see the stars. I can read about these things. I can see the math. I can learn the physics. I can do it and calculate things. I remember like the first time I ever calculated the Schwarzschild radius of the sun. It's like, wow, I can actually do this. Not even that hard math. It comes out to what? It came out to 2.95 kilometers. I think if I remember correctly. Not that complicated. But it's something that the physics and the science allows you to do. To say that all that is wrong because you believe in some God is that I would say is incredulous. You're saying that we have things that we actually can use to put a man on the moon. That we have things that we can see distances of billions of miles with telescopes. And yet that means nothing because God? That doesn't disprove anything. It doesn't disprove. As a matter of fact, Georges Lemaitre was a Catholic, a Belgian priest. He was a priest that came up with Big Bang cosmology. Because oh, hush. He says my alarm. It tells me at 9:00 I'm supposed to be sleeping. But he was able to look at the universe and say, look, how do I explain this? How do I explain what I'm observing? As a matter of fact, I challenged people the other day. If you wanted to explain reality, if you wanted to explain everything to this fundamental position without using the Bible, how do you get to God? How do you get to the Christian God? How do you get to Jesus' resurrection or anything like that? The only reason people know about any of that stuff is because it was written down in the Bible or through oral tradition, because it was told to you by somebody else. 100% of it. Now, of course, you have people saying, no, Jesus talked to me directly. Okay, fine. I obviously I don't believe any of that. But the average person, even the average Christian is not going to go, yeah, Jesus came by. We hung out, went to go grab a couple brewskis at the local, dive bar. You're not going to take something like that very seriously. So everything that most people have ever learned about God has been literally told to them by somebody else. But I don't have to do that when it comes to the observations of the universe. I don't have to say, hey, do I need God to figure out the Schwarzschild radius of the sun? No, I can say no. How much mass is in the sun? How do I have to shrink this in order to be inside its own event horizon? There's a formula to do that. And again, it's not even that complicated of a formula. Surprisingly simple. But it will give you a number. And that number seems to correlate with observations of other things. Matter of fact, I don't know if you guys ever heard of this. Do you guys ever heard of matter waves? Is that something new to you? I'm pretty sure I mentioned that before. I must have had it. Also called de Broglie. I'm going to butcher this, but de Broglie waves. Does that sound familiar to anybody? I'm going to ask my audience why it catches up. Let me know if you've heard of de Broglie or matter waves. And I'll explain them.
The reason is this for why people do not believe in him. John 3:20 says, "For everyone who does wicked things hates the light and does not come to the light, lest his works should be exposed."
So if I quoted him the Book of Mormon, that means that the Book of Mormon's true. These are post hoc things. These are things that have been attributed to try to explain why somebody doesn't believe. Oh, well, you just hate God. You just want to be wicked. Oh, it says right here that people will do this because they like to do evil. They don't want to go to the light. They don't want to come to the light. Therefore, that's the reason. That's not the worst apologetics in the world. I mean, that's not going to convince any atheist of anything. It might keep the believer believing, which is, I think, apologetics all it's for. But how is that going to convince any? Oh my God, the Bible says this must be true. I mean, it's almost condescending. But okay, so by the way, nobody in my live chat even told me whether they ever heard of matter waves or not. All right. So believe it or not, everything that has matter has its own theoretical event horizon. Everything. So if a basketball was shrunk down enough, it would be within its own black hole horizon. It would become a black hole. But the matter waves is where the object is small enough, it starts exhibiting quantum mechanical properties. Because we know on the small scale, quantum mechanical things happen, like quantum entanglement. But there's a formula out there that, okay, something super, 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 super small can quantumly entangle with something else. How could we get a basketball to be quantumly entangled with another basketball? Now, you could actually do this with large quantum machines, like a state of a quantum thing with radioactivity, but it being actually exhibiting quantum effects where you can't even know its orientation. You don't know its spin. That would require to be inside its own matter wave, which is analogous to a event horizon of a black hole. I was never heard of that before. Okay, never mind. I'm really tired, man. All right, continuing on. So I mean, again, this is really bad apologetics. This is not proving God exists. This is not proving that the atheist believes there's no God because he just wants to not see the light and do wicked things. Absolutely not.
To the light, lest his works should be exposed. People are naturally inclined to make up their own image of God in their minds or deny him completely because of the bad things that they do. The reason
Christians do bad things too. A lot of them. The difference is that the Christian professes to believe in God and still does the bad things because they think they're saved or they can be forgiven. The atheist who doesn't have any accountability to this being that they believe in, well, they are moral because they just want to be moral people. That they want to do the right things. They also know there's societal, impact if they don't do moral things. But I don't see atheists going, hey, you know what? I want to become an atheist and believe there's no God because I want to go sin. No. I mean, sure, maybe they do a lot of things that Christians go, oh, well, we don't allow that. But that's not why they don't believe. That's not why they hold the position. Them wanting to do these things have no relevance to their theological beliefs. If God existed, God existed. If God came up to them and said, look, I exist, then they have at least informed knowledge to say, look, I realize you do exist. I'll go beyond belief. It's not the matter I believe you exist. It's I know you exist, right? This is a given knowledge. But I'm going to choose to eject you and go do these things anyways. Then he might have a case. Am I wrong on this? If you know there's a God and you willfully choose to say, I'm not going to worship you, I'm not going to follow you, I want to go do these things. Okay. Then he has an argument. But to say, hey, look, I don't believe in Zeus, therefore, I'm going to believe that thunder and lightning come from natural means. No, that's not denying Zeus. That's not wanting to believe that thunder comes from, air and lightning comes from electricity that you can see, light from electrical discharge. That doesn't mean that you're denying Zeus. You're not going, oh man, hey, I believe in electrical theory. God damn that Zeus, screw him. I just want to be wicked. I just want to believe, electromagnetism is a thing. I just want to believe in, coronal discharge and compression and refraction of air. I just want to believe all these things. Hallelujah. Screw Jesus, or screw Zeus. I didn't mean to say screw Jesus. But what's the difference? I mean, that's what he's saying. It's like the atheist says, "Oh, I want to go out and sin." Screw Jesus. But how is that not analogous? How is that not the same thing? If the atheist to the Christian God says, "Hey, look, I just want to go out and sin," screw you, Christian God. How is that any different than somebody who says, "Look, I want to believe in thunder and lightning being natural causes and explain them using electromagnetic, forces and electrostatics," and go, screw you, Zeus. Does the Greek come over and say, "Hey, look, man, you just want to believe these things because you want to deny the existence of Zeus"? How is that an argument? I don't see any different. I really don't. I don't see any difference between the two.
Why we hate God is the same reason why a burglar might hate a police officer. They've done something wrong and they don't want to get caught.
Okay, so again, what about the other thousands and thousands of gods out there? You hate them too? As a matter of fact, if an atheist actually hated God, he wouldn't be an atheist. He would be a theist. A mesotheist, somebody who hates God, is a subset of theist. It's not a subset of atheist. You cannot hate something that doesn't exist. You can hate the concept, but you can't hate the object. It makes no sense. It's category error. I mean, do you hate Zeus there? Repent and believe. Do you hate Odin? Do you hate Mars? Do you hate any of the pantheonic gods? Do you hate Venus, Aphrodite, Horus, Set, Nut? Any of them? Do you hate the Egyptian gods? Why is it that your particular God is special pleaded, where if you don't do something according to that particular God, you have to hate them. To me, that's a special pleading argument. Because if you apply it to your own God, you have to apply it to all the other gods. Any one of them that has a commandment of any kind, and you don't do it, oh, it must be because you hate them. Please, audience, please, if you're out there, if I'm having lapses in my reason here, tell me. But do you or do not think that is reasonable to ask the question, why is it that you don't hate these other gods if you violate any of their, quote, commandments or what they want you to do? If you don't pray to Mecca 6 times a day, facing due whatever direction, are you not pissing off Allah? Do you not want to keep Allah's commandments? You must hate Allah. How is that not the same freaking argument? I really wish a theist would come in here and let me know. Because I don't get it. I just don't.
Even though it's completely logical for God to exist, people do not want the moral accountability that comes with believing in him.
But that's so trivial. It is completely logical that flying purple monkeys can fly out of my ass right now, shit silver dollars and spit rainbows. That is logically possible. It's not nomologically possible, but it actually is logically possible. Why? Because there's no logical contradiction involved with it. What is a contradiction that would be impossible to say flying monkeys can and cannot come out my ass. That would be a contradiction. But yes, God is logically possible. So is every other God out there. So is everything that is not a contradiction is logically possible. That is a throwaway freaking sentence.
This might seem far-fetched, especially to my atheists out there. But let me prove that the reason is because people hate God.
He keeps not using that P word, and he hasn't yet proven anything.
Can also intuitively know that God is serious about sin by the fact that people die. Here's why. The Bible.
Whoa. So people die, ergo there's sin. People die, ergo there's God. I think you're missing a few steps in there in between. Somebody asked, I am a agnostic. I don't have any denominations. Denominations tend to be of a religious variety. However, there are, one could argue there's even denomination in the Gnosticism in the epistemological sense, but that might get a little complicated. But I'm a non-believer. I do not believe in God, but I'm not an atheist. So.
The Bible says in Romans 1:20, for his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world and the things that have been made, so they are without excuse.
Again, this is not something that disproves atheism. This is something that Ray comfort level to just say to the believer, to have the believer go, yay, you're one of us. Yay. Yeah, you're parroting all the same stuff we've heard 1,000 times over. This is not an argument. This is not even good apologetics.
It also says in Romans 6:23 that the wages of sin is death. Very quickly, I would also like to address a common argument that people say against Christians that use the Bible to prove the Bible. I am proving the Bible with the Bible as much as you could prove that the president lives in the White House by looking inside the White House.
No, that's not proving. Again, I hate when people use the word prove. Demonstrating and proving things are not the same thing. Proving means that you really have a formal logical structure, whether it be an informal proof or a formal proof, inductive reasoning, deductive reasoning. These are what's considered to be proofs. Okay, I understand we use the term colloquially and say, hey, look, I saw this, so I proved to myself it's true. I get this. I understand that. But you're not demonstrating the validity of the Bible having verticality, meaning that you're not showing it to have factually correct things that are ontologically correct. The Bible does not prove God exists. And there's something to be said by the atheist meme. The Bible proves God, therefore God proves the Bible. That is circular reasoning. That is true. But quoting scripture is not going to be convincing to any atheist if you don't have actual reasons to accept that information is from a higher power. If you're already predisposed to believe that the Bible was inspired, you're more likely to believe that it's from God. But if you believe that there is no God, Why all of a sudden are you going to think, hey, here's a book, it says this, it must be true? Where does that reasoning come from? Because if you use that reasoning, then, oh, look, the Book of Mormon has to be true. The Quran has to be true. The Ranter book has to be true. Dianetics has to be true. I mean, come on. It's very fallacious reasoning. Now, you could argue if God exists and he wants you to know this true, he'll figure out a way to let you know. Okay, I'm okay with that. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not a bad argument, actually. You know, my atheist argument is going to go probably, hey, that's stupid, Steve, but it's not. I don't think it's stupid at all. If God exists and he's all powerful, all knowing, omnibenevolent, and omniscient, and all that stuff, and he wants to, let you know that he exists, he could do that. Why couldn't he do that if he existed? Again, this is a conditional. It's hypothetical, right? So, he's like, well, I'm showing you what's in the Bible. That's not the same as looking in the White House to see if the president's there. I could actually physically do that. I cannot go physically see God. I mean, because if you could, then everybody would be doing it probably. But you find very few people that actually say they've actually seen God, and most of them end up in the psych ward.
You can see that the Bible's true about what it says about itself because it actually says things that we can look at outside the world and see if the world attests to the Bible.
So the Bible says that the earth has four corners. The Bible says you can bats are birds. The Bible says that, at least implies there's some kind of firmament or dome that we know that doesn't exist. The Bible seems to imply creation. Doesn't really give dates, but I'm gonna go with Usher chronology. Okay, just go with me here. Arguendo that the Bible is probably saying that creation was somewhere around 7,000 years ago, which I think again Usher's chronology matched up with. It doesn't explicitly say that, but if you go with some kind of 6-day creation, okay, so 7,000 years ago. That's not what we observe. We don't see anything of the sort. Matter of fact, trying to pigeonhole science to fit a 7-day creation narrative is a mind-blowingly difficult challenge. It is an intractable challenge. It is impossible challenge for the most part, at least impossible in the physics sense, in the science sense. It is logically possible, yes, but when I say it's impossible, I'm at least going to tell you it's physically impossible. It does violate laws of physics, which is kind of weird because he does attribute himself to living waters, the Ray Comfort, so he's clearly a young earth creationist. So he's willing to suspend laws of physics that would have to be suspended if young earth creation is true, just to get around the heat problem, not even including the genetic problems, not including the bottlenecking and phylogeny and cladistics and homologies and morphologies and all these things, proteomics, all these things have to have consilience. Forgetting all that, just the heat problem alone would require a violation of natural law. But he's okay with that. But for some reason, if Big Bang cosmology violates the law of conservation of mass, can't have that, even though it is allowed. It's not a miracle. It's not suspending of natural law. It literally, in the calculations, in the formula, in the theories, allow for these types of violations. But he can't have that. Christian, hi. He says, Christ being a sword, so I'm going to assume that's Christian. He says, why should we expect the truth to agree with science? Oh, that's a great question. Come on in, man. Link is in the above. I need some pushback here. Okay, so that's a great question. Science observes natural phenomenon and gives a naturalistic explanation. And so it's veridical, meaning it comports with reality. It's truth. And so if I observe something and I'm able to demonstrate it empirically and test it, then why is that not the truth? If I can see that, like kinematics, like Newtonian laws of physics, if I can see that for every action there's an equal to an opposite reaction, does that not mean it's not true? If I can see it, I can demonstrate it. It's true that for every action there's equal to an opposite reaction. It agrees with the science because science deals with ontological facts. So how could there be something that we could be scientifically true, but not true at all? I mean, what would that even mean? Now, can science be wrong? Yeah, there could be science facts that have gone wrong. If you mean that, then sure, I will agree with you. But we do expect, at least, that the scientific fact is the case. But scientific facts are tentative. They're provisional. They change with new acquired information. Hey, what's up? Christ brings a sword.
Hold on just a second. I got 2 of these windows open. Hold on.
No worries, man. No rush.
I think we're good now.
Awesome.
How's it going?
Good. What brings you around?
Oh, I'm just looking for something to do.
Oh, dude, I've been there.
Yeah.
There. That's why I've started. I used to do these late night hangouts years ago, and I'm bringing them back because I have more free nights now. I can't stay up too late, obviously, but I mean, I've been enjoying them. I've kind of missed just having, my friends out there. This is kind of a light tonight, but so you usually get a decent amount of panel, decent amount of people, and I'll just go to different places and so what, you just look around YouTube?
Well, I search around for, engagement where I can find it. It's getting kind of hard. I get blocked from a lot of channels because they don't like Christians or whatever.
Oh, I like them. Yeah, no.
I appreciate that. I appreciate
it,
your
man.
openness, and
I don't want an echo chamber. I just got blocked by a guy named Made by Jim Bob, who's a creationist, and I said he had an echo chamber only because he doesn't want anybody he can't run sophistry on. He can't run precept on.
Right.
And he can't use sophistry or he can't bulldoze. And I'm like, look, I don't do that on my channel. I have before, don't get me wrong, used bulldoze. I don't do sophistry, but I mean, I'll bulldoze a flat earther. Yeah, I admit that. But I don't with Christians, because if they have a sincere belief, my thing is not to convert them from Christianity. My thing is to one, explain to them certain things, but just for them to accept the science. That's it. They don't have to stop believing in Christ. That's not my shtick. So I'm not anti-Christian. I'm not anti-theist, but I am anti-science. And there's a big difference there.
Well, where do you draw the line between science and, like evolution? Do you consider evolution to be science?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you do consider it to be a fact.
Yeah, well, okay. So let me suss that out so there's some clarification. A scientific theory is a well-substantiated body of evidence that makes accurate and testable predictions, and that describes what we observe.
According to whom?
Science. That's the science.
Who is science? Who is science? I want to know this person or this group of people called science.
Scientists.
Yeah, scientists, and I'm supposed to trust them.
Well, hang on. Scientists will have gotten together and they say, look, when we use this word, this is what it connotes. Words have connotations. Words have usages, right? So when we use this word to say, like, for example, hypothesis. A hypothesis is a conjecture that can be tested empirically. That's what, when they say, hey, I have a hypothesis, means that, okay, you've developed something you believe to be the case, and you can test it. And you can say, is it more likely that this is the case over some other condition called the null hypothesis in hypothetical deductive methodologies? Hypothetical. So when they get together and they say, look, when we say it's scientific, this is a scientific theory, this means it has been demonstrated to make accurate and testable predictions. And is well substantiated means that it has over many, 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 many years demonstrated itself to be accurate. Like Newtonian physics. Newtonian physics is highly accurate at low speeds, not near light velocities, but at conventional velocities, you can use kinetic equations, and they work just fine. Would you agree with that?
So, no, I would agree that it's true up to some limit that you don't know about until somebody else later proves you're wrong.
Okay, but that's fine. Science is tentative. I'll grant you that.
Yes. So science tells you things that are true today, but then later on, someone else comes along and says, "Well, actually, that's not true."
Yeah, and that's perfectly
science.
fine. It's
self.
But here's the thing: it's self-correcting,
Right, which means it's wrong.
Well, no. You can't say all of science is wrong. You're saying
it's wrong.
No. You can say science may get some things wrong, but it will correct itself. And wait,
the truth doesn't change.
But here's the thing: the actual facts of the matter don't change. But look, if science corrected itself, if science got something wrong, but then corrects itself and gets it right, how's that a bad thing? Or are you going to say, it can always be wrong?
You're going to trust your life on something, or trust.
Don't you?
If you're going to trust all your beliefs on something that you can empirically test and see and hypothesize and theorize and discuss with all of your peers and get everybody's agreement on a subject, and then you say, "Oh, well, we've just determined that this is the truth, and we're going to make this a law," and aren't we great? And then the world goes along thinking this is true, and then along,
Somebody corrects.
and
Somebody fixes it
100
and it's
years
wrong.
comes along, and then
Yeah.
actually that's only true in certain circumstances.
Right. That's what makes
That's
science
the beauty
powerful.
of a lie, is that you can get away
But
with
it wasn't
if you
a
call it
lie, right?
science.
Lie.
It was a lie. It was a lie. It
No,
was a
lie
total lie.
implies. Hang on. Lie implies deception. Getting something wrong does not
Oh,
mean one's lying.
That's a good debate, actually. If a lie requires deception,
There are literally theories about lying. I'm not even joking with you. There are
Okay,
theories
so
about lying.
falsehood.
What it means to be a lie.
Well,
There's
let's
different
call it
positions on that. Go ahead.
So do you think that a falsehood and a lie are the same thing?
No.
Okay, so let's call it a falsehood. So
Okay.
liance is a falsehood because it keeps being proven false, and you're going to trust something that continuously proves
What about the things that haven't been
false.
proven false? I mean, for
So
example,
this is
well,
your
hang on.
faith. This is what you call the truth, is something that continuously proves itself to be false.
What is continuing to prove itself false? Give me examples. For example, have you been on a plane?
Yeah.
Okay. So you accept by faith that the aerodynamics works, that the engineers know the science well enough to construct something to fly you at 265 knots, thousands of miles at 30,000 feet in the air. You believe that. You have that on faith that science is correct.
I don't need
Wait,
science to tell me that. I can see an
Why?
airplane is flying. I don't need science.
wait. How did those airplanes get created if not a profound understanding of fluid mechanics and science?
Well, it is done by that, but are airplanes perfect?
But they could be wrong, right? I mean,
Are
these
they
engineers.
perfect? Are airplanes perfect?
No.
Okay,
But they
they're
could be
not.
wrong. Scientists can be wrong, right? I mean,
No.
you agree scientists can be wrong. So
I mean,
every time
I
you
can
get-
make something fly and then it crashes
But-
into
but-
the ground.
but we
That's
could be
not
wrong-
hard to
but-
do.
but
I
here's
just
the thing.
throw it off of a cliff. and
we
it'll
could
fly
be
for a short
wrong about
period of time.
aerodynamics.
Same
Right?
thing
We
with
could be
an airplane. Eventually, the airplane is going to either crash or wear out and not work anymore.
But Christ, here's the thing. Is that what you call? We want to call you Christ brings a sword? Or
You can
Christ?
call me sea bass.
Sea bass. Okay, I'll call you sea bass.
That
sea bass.
works.
No, I
works
like
for
that.
everybody.
I like slaying sea bass, man. Sea bass is
I
good
like
shit.
it.
Yeah,
CBAS, sea bass, it all works,
Works. No, I like
It's a big,
it. I like
it's a
it.
big fish in the ocean, eats the little fish.
yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
Sea bass is. I used to catch some sea bass off
Did
the
you?
coast. Yeah,
That's
off the coast of
interesting.
San Onofre. Sea bass is good eats.
So yeah, it's good.
So you had said though that science could be wrong, correct?
It's wrong all the time.
Okay. When you get into a plane, how do you know that their study of their aerodynamics for the engineers? How do you know that science is correct?
Well, I've seen airplanes fly. I see them take off and land.
Oh, so you observe it.
I know the statistics. I know there's a chance that the plane could crash, but statistically speaking, and I trust statistics.
So you put the faith in the fact that this science
I like
works.
statistics, and I like some sciences. But
you're
there's
still putting your faith in the fact that these people know what they're doing when they made the plane, that the science is correct. You have a faith that the science is correct because if you didn't, you wouldn't go on the plane.
Sure, I understand some science,
Well, how's that
how
any
it
different than my
works. It's not
position?
that difficult. But see, that science does not change.
Yes, it has. Aerodynamics has changed many things.
The
We
way
learned
that
about
the air
aerodynamics.
moves over a wing and how an airplane has lift and how
Well, because we know
it
about
works.
that now, but
It's just basic stuff. It's like walking or
to us, but
riding
did
a
Orville,
bicycle. It's not that difficult.
did
It's
the
really
Wright
not that
brothers,
complicated.
Seabass, did the Wright brothers understand aerodynamics as we do now? They didn't
They
have
knew
Bernoulli's
probably
equation.
more than I know. Yeah.
No, they didn't. No, I don't think they did. I mean, they
Pretty
understood.
smart guys.
They probably
The
figured
Wright brothers
something
are
out,
pretty
but
smart guys.
but I don't think they had an in-depth understanding of fluid mechanics.
Well, how did they understand how a wing worked?
Because they didn't even. I don't know if they actually understood the forces. I mean, here's the thing: you could go through. You can have
knew
a
Bernoulli principle, which is required for an airplane to fly. What happened there?
Most atheists hold.
What the hell happened there?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Lost control.
I lose.
Anyway.
I left mouse. Yeah.
That happens. Yeah, I'm just saying that they were smart characters, the Wright brothers. They were no dummies.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying that they were, obviously.
But obviously we've learned a lot more. But see, that comes from science, obviously, but it also comes from engineering. A lot of people who aren't scientists actually take something like the airplane and they make it better. They're not necessarily scientists, they're engineers.
Engineers.
So
Yeah.
they understand science, they understand what the scientists have found, and then they apply it to making some instrument or vehicle or whatever it is.
It's still science,
and
engineering, science.
that has just, ballooned in the last 150 years.
So how do we know what to trust and we don't trust? Because
well, that's a good question. How do you know what to trust?
We can observe, but here's the thing: we can observe evolutionary theory. We can observe. This is how it was created. Evolutionary theory wasn't just, oh, I'm going to make this theory. We're like, okay, what is it we observe? How do we explain it? It's based upon observations. If we can't trust our observations, we can't trust our reality, we can't trust our reason, then why do we have anything that we believe? Why do we put trust in anything?
Yeah, this is a debate that's just ongoing, the evolutionary debate. So
there is no debate. Here's the thing, though: there is no debate. I'm not even joking. I'm not trying to like sound like an asshole. There is no evolutionary debate. It doesn't exist in academia. Zero, nada.
Well,
zip.
I don't agree with academia.
Well, I understand that, but I'm saying in academia, there's nobody going, "Hey, let's have a debate on evolution." No,
I don't care.
That's settled.
What academia thinks. They're liars.
But here's the thing: do you agree, though, that is settled science in academia? It is settled in academia. Do you agree?
Oh, in academia, they believe a lot of lies. They don't believe that God exists. They believe a lot of things.
No. I know academics that believe gods exist. I know PhDs that are actual hardcore Christians. Are you kidding me?
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, academia. When you're in the laboratory, your beliefs don't matter. You are science first. You put your
I
to the
think
side.
you come from a different age than the modern day, where things have changed quite a bit in the last 10 years. I don't think academia is anywhere near what it was when I was in it.
Maybe I'm not going to argue against that. I mean,
back in the day. I mean, back when I was in school, there was no God in school at that time, and now we're 30 years later. I'm sure it's only gotten worse. In fact, I know it's gotten worse because you see what's going on in the news. I don't even want to get into it, but yeah. So academia is basically just a bunch of people with a lot of money who want to control the world.
Okay,
that's what academia
and
is.
again, there might there's some problems with academia. I'm not going to even refute that, but still, when you take a test, those tests are based upon things that you have to learn in order to understand a topic and to pass the course, correct? So what is about you think that these things are wrong? If evolution is wrong, then all you have to do is show people that can understand it where the errors are. And this is how
easy to do, but they won't listen and they won't give you any time. You're not going to get any traction with an atheist who has power.
Go to the Christian ones.
I'll prove it to you right now. I can tell you how evolution is a lie. I can show you physical evidence of it, but you will deny it.
Well, let's see what you got. I mean, hang on. Before you do, though, audience out there, you guys ready for this? You guys ready? Make sure you guys prepared for this because I'm reviewing this video with this kid, and he's in his 20s, I guess, as you saw, and he said he was going to provide proof, and he never did.
Well, this is easy.
All right.
Yeah. So
one thing at a time. So pick one thing, not like Gishgal. Pick one thing.
Yeah, I'm just going to pick one thing.
Go for it.
All right. So evolution depends on, there not having been a worldwide flood like Noah's Ark. If you had a worldwide flood like Noah's Ark that was, say, 7,000 feet deep, right, over the entire Earth, wiped out all life, that would invalidate evolution. Evolutionary theory.
I'm gonna say no, but I'm gonna for argumento's sake, it would invalidate.
If everything died 4,400 years ago,
it would definitely have to.
And life had to start over.
It would definitely put a problem with common ancestry. I don't think it affects modern evolutionary synthesis as much as it would common ancestry.
So let me give you the proof. I haven't given you the proof yet.
Okay, go ahead.
So the proof can be found in a location in Turkey, which is it's called Doomsday Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
It's above the Valley of Eight.
Yeah.
And it's a national park. It's a park. It's called Noah's Ark National Park. They have a visitor center. You can go to the bathroom and get a Noah's Ark souvenir, and you can look at the Ark and you can decide for yourself if that is real.
Yeah. So how can
and science will tell you that it's not real.
Can I ask your age?
I'm 62.
Oh, 62. Okay. So I'm 54. So you're a little bit older. But this goes back to the 70s, man. We both were around the 70s. Do you remember Ron Wyatt?
That's the man.
Yeah, I'm quite familiar with Ron Wyatt's work and Morris's work, Baumgartner's, all these guys.
Yeah.
These guys were con men.
That's what science says.
No, this is a story. This is
what science says.
No, this is what history said about Ron White.
Whose history? What history are you talking about?
So you do recognize that Ron White has literally been in infamy for faking stuff, right? You are aware of this, correct?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Really? You never heard that before?
I know that people attack him. That I'm aware of. Sure.
Okay. That's fair enough. But you realize that there have been controversies that this guy was nowhere near anything to be considered.
I'm aware that science completely dismisses him. I'm aware of that.
Right. Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Science is a lie. That's why I'm telling you science. Either Ron Wyatt is lying, or the science. One of them is telling the truth.
Okay, but I don't think it's even under science. I think it's
either Ron Wyatt found Noah's Ark, and what we're looking at right now is Noah's Ark, or it's not.
Yeah, well, I can tell you right now, it's not Noah's Ark.
Well, you can't tell me anything because you don't know what you're talking about.
This has been around since the 70s, man.
Yeah, and I've seen it too. So I've seen it with my own eyes. At least I've seen the evidence with my own eyes. I haven't been to the site.
You've seen a shape that. Because of pareidolia,
I've seen a lot more than a shape. I've seen a lot, but anyways, apparently you haven't seen all the evidence.
Oh, you know what?
What evidence have you seen?
Well, hang on.
What evidence have you seen?
I'll tell you. I don't. Okay,
because there's a lot.
I haven't looked at this topic in a very long time, so I might have to help my audience.
No,
I admit I haven't looked in a long time. I've been doing this for 10 years, so I've heard it all. I've seen, but from what I remember, there was a movie that had a documentary on this very subject. And in the documentary, when they went to this mountain in Turkey, and they wanted to find evidence from the Ark, they literally fabricated archaeological evidence. One of the guys who was a fabricator for the production company.
Well, that's what you say.
No. This is
just an accusation.
Sure, but you can go read about this. Okay.
Well, I can read about it. I can read a lie from just about anywhere.
Okay,
Everything I'm reading is a lie. It's not hard to find a lie.
Have you heard this before?
I've seen the Ark with my own eyes. Did he fabricate that?
But
did he fabricate the Ark?
Have you heard this?
Because it's there. I can look at it.
Have you heard this before?
I've heard a lot of lies.
That during the documentary, they had taken these metal nails and purposely soaked them in like acid and other things to make them look much older than they were. They treated the wood to make it look a lot older than it was. This documentary was later pulled from.
Wood.
Was it CBS? Well, it's Gopher Wood.
It wasn't wood.
The Ark is supposed to be Gopher Wood. They pulled.
Yeah, they didn't retrieve wood. You're lying.
The
documentary. Obviously, don't know what you're talking about.
The documentary had wood.
Fossilized, and it's not wood when it's fossilized.
Well, okay, fine. It's petrified wood. It's petrified wood.
It's not a wood. Do you know the difference between wood and petrified wood?
Yes, I understand.
They're not the same thing. One is a mineral and one isn't.
Yes, I understand how fossilization occurs.
So let's use the proper terminology.
It's called.
Well, hang on.
It's called permineralization. Permineralization. When they say wood, it's petrified wood.
What is
when I say wood, when I say wood, I just want you to understand.
I want to know what Gopher Wood is.
Nobody seems to know. I don't think anybody knows what petrified
what it is. I know
what's Gopher Wood. Really? I've never seen it.
Why is it?
Where did you get this from?
Multiple layers of wood, because that's what they found. That's what Gopher Wood is. Gopher Wood is a form of plywood, and what they recovered was plywood.
Yeah. See, awesome. I think it was produced by I think it was produced by the Chinese documentary, but it was on.
And they even found the door.
CBS?
They found the door to the Ark.
And how they determined that Ark had species of animals on it?
They found fossilized dung, animal dung.
Okay, well, we find fossilized animal dung in a lot of places.
Well, they drilled down and they went in with
what's it called? I forget. What is fossilized dung called? It starts with a C. I can't. Corporalite. Yeah, corporalite. Can't think of it.
Okay. Well, you don't have to believe it, but the evidence is there.
Mm.
Now, if you want to believe science because science makes you feel comfortable, that's fine. But I'm going to make my own decision whether it's Noah's
absolutely.
Ark or not. I'm not going to trust some guy who's getting paid a bunch of money to tell me what to think.
Okay, so let me ask you this.
But you can believe whatever nonsense you want. I don't care.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And science is going to go with that stuff because I have seen so many people fake stuff, and every one of these things has been.
Well, you can't fake the Ark. You can go there and visit it yourself. That's not fake. You can visit it yourself.
Again, there might be a ship there. I don't know, but how do they even know it's an Ark? How do they know it's the Ark in the Bible? That's called post-hoc rationalization.
You're talking without even.
I've watched the documentary. Have you watched the documentary?
Many times.
Okay. Do you realize? So you do know that documentary was determined to be fake, right?
By who?
They pulled it off the air because it was fabricated.
I don't care who.
The people who made it.
That gives them more credibility if they pulled it off the air.
Oh, I got you. Okay, so but
I believe there is a conspiracy of science to deny God's existence.
Oh, so let me get that. I just want to make sure. So
they don't want you to know that
they make a documentary. Everybody agreed at that time that the documentary was fabricated. The guy that fabricated
it. You keep using that word, everybody.
The people involved in the
nobody ever asked me if I thought it was fake. I believe it's real. Okay, I've watched it and the evidence is there.
Okay, but Seabass, do you agree?
You keep talking like you're the authority, or is there some panel out there that usurps all of my common sense and what I can see with my own eyes? That's not true.
Agree?
They're liars, and you're believing them, and it's not true. Go ahead.
Do you agree that the people who made the actual documentary admitted it was false? Because they did. They admitted this. This is one of the reasons they got pulled. You could say, look, they decided they.
I don't believe anything anybody says unless it comes out of Ron Wyatt's mouth.
Yeah, it was CBS.
I don't believe anybody who badmouths Ron Wyatt. I don't believe them. Okay. I think Ron Wyatt is the real deal, and I think he was speaking the truth. And everybody who doesn't like what he has to say, he's going to call him a fraud. That's what I believe. Yeah.
So, and he was also the guy, if I'm not mistaken, who found the chariot wheels in the sea, proving the Exodus,
the crossing of the Red Sea. Yeah.
Yeah. Even though that wasn't a chariot wheel, it was literally the steering wheel of a ship. But hey, details.
That's what you say. That's what it
was.
That's what you say. That's what you say.
So
yeah, it's just your word against mine. You have no proof.
Well, here's the thing.
You're just making shit up.
If you go and look at the evidence,
scientists do. They just make stuff up. What evidence? What evidence are you talking about?
Do you know what a ship's wheel looks like?
It's not a ship's wheel.
Go look at it. It's a ship's wheel. It had nothing to do with a chariot
wheel.
Well, I think it's delusional, but that's okay. But you're welcome to that. You're welcome to that. But you have to understand that's not going to be convincing to people that look at the evidence and go, "Hey,
I don't need to convince you of anything."
Well, I get that.
I only need to see the evidence and decide for myself what's true and what's not true. And from that, I can tell you that the science is lying to us. They don't want you to know this. There's a lot of things that they won't explain to you from history. The easiest one that I can explain that everybody seems so confused about is the Great Pyramid of Giza. Well, I can explain that easily. I can tell you anything you want to know about that thing. I've studied it enough, and I've come to the conclusion, well, obviously this is more truth that science doesn't want you to know about. So they tell you, oh, we can't understand it. It's too mysterious.
No, I don't think scientists don't say that. They know how they're built.
Oh, really?
So yeah. There's many documentaries you can watch how they built these and they put the obelisk up. But let me ask you this: is this like an ancient alien thing?
No.
The aliens didn't create it?
No.
Okay. Did God help him create the pyramids?
In what way do you mean help? Do you mean the design or by the physical building?
Yeah, go with both.
No, not with the physical building, but with the design. Yes, the design came from God. Yeah.
Do you believe in flat Earth?
No.
Do you believe in space?
Oh, come on.
No, I'm
Yeah,
certain. No,
I believe in space. Yeah.
Okay, so you don't believe in like a dome theory, like a firmament and
Well, I believe there's a firmament, but it's way the hell out there.
Like how? Like what do you mean?
Well, you'll never
far out
reach
there?
it. Well,
Okay, so
many what you call light years or whatever. It's too far for you to ever travel to.
Okay,
Yeah. But it hasn't always been that size.
Hmm.
In the early days of the Earth, it was a much smaller space.
Can we observe it?
Can you observe what?
The firmament.
You'd have to go there.
So we can't observe it from Earth.
It would be pretty hard. I don't know if you could or couldn't.
Okay.
Pretty far away.
Come up with a theory. Come up with a test. That's how science works, right? If there's a firmament out there, then science, in theory, should be able to
all firmament is a barrier, right? It's just a barrier, right?
Yeah.
So you when you hit the barrier, from what I understand, this is just from what I understand from the Bible, hit the barrier and you see like ice and fire, and then there's God sitting on the throne as if looking through a glass darkly.
Okay, I'm going to go with that. That might be the view of a Sheol and the glass dome, or what did Hovind call it? Canopy theory. Yeah.
Oh well, the canopy theory is different. That's the belief that there used to be like a bubble around the Earth that got popped.
Right.
Yeah. That's no longer there. That's not.
But that's where the waters came from instead of the fountains of the deep.
No,
the flood.
There was a according to him, and I agree with him on this one. I don't agree with everything Kent says, but I agree with him about the canopy theory because it just makes a lot of sense. And I also believe that the canopy was popped by a meteor, bunch of meteors hitting the Earth and just smashed the canopy, brought the water down, crushed the Earth's surface.
Hell, yeah, because I mean, we all know that Kent Hovind is he's definitely like a genius in physics and astrophysics, right? Because he can actually model all this stuff. Oh wait, he has never done that. He doesn't explain any of the physics behind that. He
doesn't belong to the Academy of Science, as I understand.
No, but if you come up with a ridiculous theory, you need to make it at least plausible. Like, are you familiar with the heat problem that creationists have?
No, I'm not familiar with the heat problem that creationists have. What is that?
There's a couple of different things in the heat problem. One version of the heat problem, there's two main heat problems. One, if that amount of water fell, the amount of energy released from it would liquefy the Earth.
Well, that's what you say.
That's physics. The math works out.
Well, that's what they say. Yeah, that's what they say. Physics says a lot of things. They say a lot of things that aren't true.
But that's what the physics
correcting themselves. We already talked about that.
Sure, but that's what the same physics that used
they say a lot of things.
The physics that model the plane that you get into, that you rely on, is the same physics. It's the same physics. Engineering requires physics.
That's engineering that's been around for over 100 years.
No, it has not.
Yeah, it has.
No, the engines that we have now on a 747 have not been around 100 years.
Basic principles of flight are the same.
And the basic principles of enthalpy and entropy have been around as well. These are violations of actual thermodynamic laws. The enthalpy in the
what are you talking about?
Do you know what enthalpy is?
Yeah.
Okay. So I
don't know what you're talking about though. What's that have to do with what we were talking about before? All of a sudden you went in a different direction.
If that amount of body of water were to strike the Earth, that's going to produce heat.
Okay.
A lot of heat.
Well, first of all, you don't know anything about what you're talking about.
I literally went to school for nuclear reactor technologies.
I don't care.
I literally supervise people on nuclear reactor plants.
I don't care.
I know a little bit about thermodynamics.
I don't care.
So how does I don't know what I'm talking about when this is like really basic stuff with.
Oh, you're throwing me these false credentials. I don't have to believe you.
No,
you can tell me anything you want. Huh?
So do you know what entropy is?
Yeah.
Okay. What's entropy?
There's entropy and there's enthalpy.
Yeah, I understand that. But what's the relationship between the two?
Entropy is the decline of energy and the reduction of the slow tendency. Is that enthalpy or entropy?
I'll make it easy for you.
The slow tendency of things to devolve into a neutral state of non-polar. No polarity. Just everything goes into dust. It's one of the enthalpy or entropy. Whatever. Go ahead.
So on a steam turbine, you have what's called a Moliere diagram, and the Moliere diagram is a relationship between the pressure, velocity, pressure, temperature, and saturation of points of humidity, how much moisture can be held.
You're
in
talking
that
about a
steam.
Carnot engine. It's about a lot of steam. Like a Carnot engine, what is the most efficient
Carnot efficiency
output?
is
How
similar.
much? Yeah. Okay. So go ahead.
Well, let me finish.
You're going to lose energy, right? And you're
Well,
not going to get everything out of it that you're going to put
hang
into
on.
it.
Carnot efficiency is the maximum theoretical efficiency of a Carnot engine for a heat engine. Okay. And by the way, my audience, I don't ever really talk about physics with my audience like this because I don't get into thermodynamics nuts, but
it's been 40 years for me, so it's
been 30 plus years for me. But correct me if I'm wrong about Carnot efficiencies. I still remember the formula. It's like 1 minus 99% divided by 100 or something. But that's the theoretical maximum. Now, on the Moriarty diagram, between the relationship between enthalpy and entropy is the amount of total energy in the system based upon the pressure temperature of that steam, because steam, as it gets cooler, cannot hold as much moisture. This is why you have rain on a mountain range. When the winds sweep up and the atmosphere goes up that mountain, the air goes up the mountain, and it starts cooling off, the moisture comes out, the dew point, and that comes out as precipitation as rain. Entropy is the maximum amount of unusable energy in the system. But I'm going to say, we don't need maximum. It's just the amount of unusable energy in a system. It results from losses in the system, from any reversible thermodynamic process. You will always have entropy increasing to the isolated system, which is
and you call that a law, right?
That's the second law of thermodynamics.
That's right. You call that a law, and that law cannot be broken, right?
Right.
Right. Except it has been broken.
Hang on. It's called.
And now we're finding out that it doesn't really hold true in all cases.
It has never been broken.
There are such things as superconducting materials.
That superconducting does not violate entropic laws.
Oops.
I guarantee it.
And that's just one example.
No, but that's not an example. You're wrong on that.
Because
superconductors do not violate entropic laws. I assure you.
There's no resistance. That's impossible. According to your theories, it's impossible.
First of all, there's no such thing.
All of a sudden, it's possible.
No, listen. First of all, nowhere in any superconductor theory do you have zero resistance. Nowhere. You have.
Well, that's what you say.
Just go find me a paper.
I don't need to find a paper. I can tell you that it occurs.
Okay, so you have
you don't have any evidence of it right now, but you'll eventually have it.
Okay, so
eventually you'll find out, oh yeah, there is such a thing.
Do you believe in over-unity devices?
I don't know what that is.
Where you have more energy going out of the system than going in?
Oh, you mean like more than a perpetual motion machine?
Well,
yeah, I believe that there are such things that we haven't discovered yet. Yeah, I believe that there is such a thing. Yeah, you betcha.
See. This is okay, and
it goes outside your realm of understanding and mine as well, but I believe it exists.
I'm just going to lay all my cards on the table, okay, Seabass?
Go ahead.
Anybody who thinks, in my opinion, right?
In your opinion, right? Exactly.
Okay, in my opinion,
your opinion doesn't mean anything.
But I want to be upfront. Anybody who thinks that over-unity devices exist or can exist, I put in the crank department.
Okay, fine.
Okay, I just want you to be. I want you
to understand that science has been wrong many times in the past, and as long as you continue to believe that everything you've been told is true, you're not going to believe that such a device can exist until it does.
And you can demonstrate this?
No, I can't demonstrate.
Oh, okay. So it's just
that's going to just because I can't demonstrate it doesn't mean that it won't be demonstrated in the future.
So
you can't be so sure of yourself that.
Oh yeah, I can't. No, I can't.
You're sure of a lot of things that are not true.
Like what?
This is just one, like evolution.
Well, I'm not.
You're sure of that one too.
There's a difference.
I believe there's all this evidence for it, and then we were just talking about Noah's Ark, and then that got uncomfortable.
There's no evidence for Noah's Ark. Your anecdotal evidence
and all this other nonsense.
Ron White is not evidence of Noah's Ark. That has been long debunked.
Ron White is the antithesis of a scientist. He's the opposite.
Okay. Yeah,
and that's the kind of person that God would pick. He would pick a most humble person to put you to shame, because that's the way God works. God takes the most humble person, the most childlike, humble person, to put the elites to shame, and that's Ron Wyatt.
So let me ask you this: do you think it's possible to go faster than the speed of light? Matter?
Yeah, I believe that it's possible, but it hasn't been proven yet. I believe that a lot of things are possible that science tells us aren't.
Okay,
like traveling faster than the speed of light. We already know that's true.
Really? What travels faster than the speed of light?
I've heard it several times from several different places. It's not coming from me. I keep hearing it on YouTube. You know, there's all these.
Okay.
I don't.
It's
Look,
on YouTube,
know.
guys. It's on YouTube. It's on
Okay.
YouTube.
Well,
Okay.
laugh it up. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
your science is full of shit. So it's easy.
Wait a minute, though. I want to know
Just
what
because-
come on. I want to know, when have we ever seen mass go faster than the speed of light?
Mass. I never said anything about mass going faster. Things go. Information control. There's things called. There's things. Well, that's another thing. See, that's a topic of debate.
That is a fundamental rule. Action at a distance is not information.
Actually, I believe that actually does happen. Action at a distance actually does happen. I don't have it in front of me, but there was a time when I was studying this, and it was fascinating. It's a fascinating subject, and there's a lot of people who will just say it's not possible, and yet there's evidence to show you that that is possible. Not only that, it has something to do with scalar waves, and I can't tell you everything about it.
Yes, no, I'll tell you what it is. I know exactly what you're talking about. You want to know what you're talking about?
Yeah, tell me.
Gravitational waves.
Waves, right?
Well, that's scalar waves. They're actually, they're magnitudes. They have magnitudes, but
it has like this pulsing action.
But here's the thing. And
it's like once it's like it's a whole thing goes at once. It's like
well, I should say gravitational waves, not gravity waves. Gravity waves have to do with.
Well, there's a lot of forces that
we
aren't allowed to know about.
Gravitational waves. Listen, Newton didn't like the idea of action at a distance. He did not know or understand how
didn't like or didn't like.
He did not understand how the sun could influence the Earth being 93 million miles away. He called this action at a distance.
That's right.
But then a very famous guy came along by the name of Albert Einstein, and he created a formula, or he created a theory, I should say, in 1905 called the the special theory of relativity. Then in 1915, he formalized and published the general theory of relativity.
That's right.
The general theory of relativity.
Each one supersedes the one before it.
No, they don't. They're different.
Yeah, they do.
General theory of relativity
pretty much puts Newton out of business.
No, it doesn't.
You're out of business.
No, it doesn't.
He only works in a certain realm, and then it.
Well, yeah, but that doesn't mean Newtonian physics is wrong.
That's true for Einstein's special theory of relativity too. His theories fall apart as well. You can't unite them.
Newtonian physics only does work under non-Lorentzian states. Non-Galilean transformations will allow for this, but not Lorentzian transformations. So when you're doing science, right, when you're looking at these gravitational waves, that's how you get this action at a distance, because Einstein said, hey, it is not this weird force that exists that Newton thought. Newton thought gravity was a force, but Einstein said, no, it's not a force. It is an actual warping of the space-time fabric, which means that But
you can talk about go ahead. You can talk about science all you want about how much we know about science, but since 1950, we have been living in the dark. They don't tell us the latest technologies. We're still studying the same bullshit that we were studying in 1950s. The same science is being taught in schools today as was being taught 70 years ago. It's the same science. There's nothing new.
What's incorrect about and by the way, the special theory of relativity,
because the real science that's going on velocities. Is being hidden from us. They aren't telling us what's
going on. So do you have a GPS?
Huh?
Do you have a GPS?
Do I have a GPS?
Do you have a phone?
No, I don't have a phone.
You don't use a cell phone?
I got rid of my cell phone.
Okay, have you ever used one?
Yeah.
Okay, those cell phones have a GPS in them.
Yeah, I know that.
Okay, that GPS has to account for both special and general theory of relativity, both relativistic speeds and the fact that the satellites are far away from the Earth, which means the gravitational field is lesser up there. Why does it have to do that if those two models don't actually work?
I don't understand what you're asking me this for.
Because you're so seemingly against science, but we know the general theory of relativity models things. We know that it actually explains Newtonian physics. It incorporates it.
You believe that science is like the end all be all, and I'm telling you that science can change in an instant. All of a sudden, everything you know doesn't work anymore.
What I'm saying is that these models.
Let me ask you this.
These models.
How do you define what a second is? How do you define what
The
is
wavelength.
second?
The,
What is
the,
what is
the crest from one wavelength to another wavelength? I think from a cesium-137 atom, if I'm not mistaken.
okay? So we can
Am I right on that? I'm not googling anything, but I think.
Well,
it's,
I believe it has to
think,
do with the rotation of the Earth as well.
No,
I
no,
think
no,
that
no, no,
the
no,
rotation
no,
of the Earth has a set.
No,
Hold on. The rotation
one,
of the Earth has a set time that we assume that it rotates. Oh no, okay. So you
I'm
tell
telling
me.
you I'm telling
So
you
the
from
Earth
experience.
does not rotate at a constant spin.
Listen,
Is that what you're telling me?
a second is literally defined by an atomic clock. I think it's in Sweden, if I'm not
But
mistaken.
doesn't that have to match? Doesn't that have to match the Earth's rotation?
You asked the
Doesn't
question.
that have to add?
No.
Doesn't it have to? So they can be out of sync.
Yes, that's why we have leap years.
This is why we have leap seconds. Time can be out of sync with the Earth's rotation. Okay,
yes.
very good. So how is that? How is that over all that all of a sudden now a second, which we've depended on it being a certain length of time, all of a sudden it's faster than it was before?
I don't even understand your question. I mean, do you understand? Wait.
Now all of a sudden we're going to have to redefine the length of a second.
Do you agree?
Because the length of the second, we have to have a certain number of seconds in a day.
Do you agree?
And that day has to match the rotation of the Earth.
By standard practices, that the second has literally been defined as a wavelength from crest to crest, and I believe it's cesium-135, 137. I don't remember.
There are certain.
Hang on. Can somebody in my audience look it up? Can somebody in my audience look it up? What is it?
We use seconds to define what time it is on the Earth.
What nucleotide? What nucleus? What atomic nuclei causes the exact wavelength of a 1 second? Because I don't remember, and I don't want to look it up right now. But I'm pretty sure cesium. But I don't remember the isotope number. Somebody look that up. And here's the other thing. Do you know that the speed of light is defined to be a number?
Where do you get the second from initially? Where does the second come from? It comes from the rotation of the Earth. The rotation of the Earth defines a second.
No, it does not.
Because you have 24 hours in a day.
Okay, so listen.
24 hours in a day.
It's cesium-133. Hey, listen. Nowadays,
did they do that?
Listen,
in the early days, before they had nuclear physics.
Listen. Nowadays, cesium-133 is used for the definition for the second due to the reliable frequency of microwave it emits. The definition is the second is the duration of 9,192,631,777 periods. 770 periods of the radiation corresponding to the transition between the two hyperfine levels of the ground state of cesium-133.
Why are you telling me this for? So that's how you measure a second. That's how you measure seconds in nuclear physics. Okay.
Yes.
But I'm telling you that you can also measure a second with a pendulum, with gravity. No. Oh, okay. So clocks don't work.
Clocks are analog. Clocks measure. First of all,
clocks don't use frequency.
Do you realize?
We don't use gravity.
Maybe you don't know this because it's been a while you've been in school, but do you realize that the annual sinusoidal year for the Earth, when this Earth goes around the sun at full rotation, in the amount of exactly 1 year, the Earth is not exactly at the initial point where it started, because there are 365 and a quarter days in a year. Do you realize that it's not the same? This has to be calculated, and there's something every 4 years. Listen. There's something calculated called leap year. And there's also called a leap second that take into account these little discrepancies.
I'm just hearing this, okay? I'm not a scientist. I just hear these things, and it just throws everybody off, because all of a sudden now everybody's saying the Earth is rotating faster than it used to. So we have to adjust the length of a second in order for it, and that makes sense. If the Earth is spinning faster, your clocks are all going to be out of whack. You are expecting. Hold on, let me finish. You are expecting the Earth to continue to rotate at a constant speed when you're designing a clock. You don't expect the Earth to speed up and slow down. You don't expect it to. We do expect it to. You don't expect. Oh my God! You don't expect the Earth to change its rotational speed when you're designing a clock.
But we do know the Earth does.
Oh, you're such a liar.
We don't know. There's earthquakes can temporarily change the speed of the Earth.
In the olden days, before there were transistors and crystals, we had to we had
estimated.
we used a pendulum, and it was
Yeah.
fairly accurate
Do you-
for a
do you-
mechanical
do you-
device.
do
It
you-
was a fairly accurate device, and that's how we measured a second.
Do you know why we actually got more specific on what we mean by? First of all, do you know what?
Well, then you go down,
do you-
and
do you even
but
know-
then
do you-
ultimately
wait.
it comes down to the only reason
you-
why you need to know time is so that you know when the sun is coming up and
Do
when it's going down, and so you can measure lengths, and the Earth's rotation provides us with the length of a day.
So
And now that length
do
of a
you-
day is
do you
changing.
do you understand what's on the screen right now? Do you know what this means? Why we picked the cesium atom? What we mean by high flying transition frequency? What we mean by
Why are you
microwave
going into
radiation?
this for? Why do you want to talk about this?
Because you keep on
Think anybody
saying
cares?
my
Do
audience
you
does.
think
They know
anybody
what-
cares
they know what
about
I'm
this
talking
stuff? Okay,
Yeah.
talk about your cesium 133
Yeah.
atom. Fine.
because I want people to learn the actual science. What you're
Okay.
preaching is not science. What you're preaching out is your
No,
own
it's not science at all. It's like
conspiratorial nonsense.
truth.
Well, if this is the
I'm
truth,
preaching
this
the
is how,
truth, and you're
this is
preaching
how-
a bunch of
this is-
nonsense.
this is how
Go
a
ahead.
second is
Talk about
defined.
your cesium 133. That's going to tell
And-
us what a second
And the
is.
reason why a second is defined this way because it makes it a natural unit. Because if you look at the natural units, the speed of light, Planck's constant, the Coulomb charge, the electron charge, all these things are quantized. These things cannot exist only in specific numbers. Like, for example, the electron, 0.511 electron volts. It can only exist at that state. There are certain orbitals in an atom called the s orbital, the p orbital, the d orbital, the f orbital.
See, all these
or-
things are
orbital.
your beliefs.
No, these are scientific facts.
Yes, because
We have
they can
demonst-
change. They
Well,
can
go ahead,
change, and they
them.
have changed. That's your
Change
problem.
them.
Is the
Change
moment
them.
the moment that you think you've
Change
got this
them.
all figured, the moment you think you've
Denialism
got-
is not
the
an
moment
argument.
you think the moment you think you've got this all figured out, it changes. That's a typical.
So let me
that's
ask
a
you this.
typical
So
thing
let me
that
ask you this.
happens in science. The moment that
Let me ask you this.
then all of a sudden, boom, something comes along.
All right, let me
oh,
ask
it's
you
no
this.
longer true anymore.
All right, let me ask you
Oh.
this. Let me ask you this. How does a transit? You said you looked at electronics stuff like that or something like that. How does an LED work? Do you know?
It's a transistor, and
No,
I don't
it's
know
not.
how it works.
No, it's not. An LED is not a transistor. It's a diode.
Okay, it's a diode.
Light emitting diode. LED.
All right, it's a light emitting diode, right? It's
Right, and what makes it a di-
electricity can go one direction, and that's it. I don't know what makes it glow.
Okay, so what makes it glow? It is a diode, right? What makes it glow is that there's a transition state between the PN junction or the NP junction is doped with galamine or some kind of doping agent that allows electrons to flow across that barrier when electric potential is on that particular diode. And when it flows, it drops down to ground state. That dropping of ground state produces what's called a photon. That photon must be at a specific wavelength. That's why we see blue. This is why we see green. Those are the most common LEDs. Blue LEDs were much more complicated, but a green LED is because the wavelength. It's not producing a white photon. It's not like a white light incandescent light.
So
It
what?
literally- listen,
What's all
it's-
this? What's this have to do with anything?
Okay, where I'm going with this is, if the theory didn't work, if we didn't know solid state physics, if we didn't understand quantum
It
mechanics,
works today.
okay, but it does work, right? So
Today.
there's something to it. It
Will
does
it work tomorrow?
Well, if it doesn't, then we come up with a new theory.
Well,
But right
all,
now,
of a
that theory
sudden,
works.
all of a sudden, the physics change on you. That's what happens.
So you think physics can change? You think just
Physics
it just
changes
changes?
all the time.
No. You think the laws of physics can just change, right?
They can. The physics
they
of
can?
the laws of physics can change.
Why? How? Why? What
Why?
makes
How?
them
Because
change?
God.
Oh,
That's
so
why.
God can change the laws of physics.
God
I don't
can
fly.
totally fool you.
So basically, okay. So if God can do
totally
that,
fool you.
God can send strong delusions. God can change the fundamental concepts of the universe,
can
and you can't
change
trust
everything.
anything. Why do you even get up in the
Can't
morning?
trust
Why do you get
anything.
up? So you can't. So do you get up in the morning? You trust his gravity?
I trust the Bible
No. But how do you know there's going to be gravity there?
because the Bible says so.
Where does the Bible mention gravity?
The Bible says that as long as the sun and the moon and the stars exist, so shall Israel exist, and Israel still exists. So the sun.
That
and the
has
moon
nothing to do
still
with what we're
exist.
talking about. You said that you can't trust anything. God can change all these.
Well, that's the
concepts.
physics. I consider the sun and the moon and the stars. If physics falls apart, I don't expect those to be there anymore. But one day, I'll tell you what. One day, the universe is going to collapse or be destroyed, and your physics is going to mean nothing.
But right now, do you trust the physics enough to get,
For
get
the
out
moment,
of bed?
I trust
No, the
some
moment. Okay.
physics,
All right,
not all of it.
So how
Not
about
all of
this?
it. Not your physics. Sorry,
But it's the same physics.
not the same.
It's exactly the same.
I don't agree with everything you say.
And even from a scientific instrumentalist point of view or pragmatist point of view, you still have to function. You have to make certain assumptions. If I assume
I don't
that the
need that
laws,
much.
if I assume the
I
laws
don't
of
need,
physics,
I don't. What do I
if
need?
I-
What do I need to?
if I assume
What do I need?
if I assumed the laws of physics were to change every time I got up, I couldn't get up. You have to
I
make
don't
that
think about
assumption.
that. I don't have to think about it. I trust God.
Okay, but you trust him not to change things.
Yeah, I trust God will take care of me. I don't need to think about your physics.
But what happens if God says, "Hey, tomorrow you're not going to have gravity"? How do you know He's not going to do that?
It's God's will. You know, that's
Right,
what
but how do you
God
know He's not
wants.
going to do that?
Well, if He does, then He must have a good
But
reason.
do you wake up every day going, "Hey, the
I
day
don't
might be
worry
the day"?
about it. I don't worry
Okay,
about it.
so it's pragmatic then, right?
No, it's not pragmatic. I just
How's
believe
that?
God.
No, it's literally pragmatic for you to say,
I don't even think
God's
about it. I don't think about these things. You think about
okay.
it. These are your concerns.
So all these different things that we have for science that gave you a computer, that gave you the ability to communicate, that's all based upon scientific theories. But you're using them right now. But they, same as I'm using them.
So what?
But this is demonstration that those theories work.
Yeah, but how did you get the science? Where did it come from?
We learned about it. We discovered
You learned about it. Yeah, who'd you learn it from?
Other people that stood on
the Jews.
I am Jewish.
The Jews, yeah. Well, I'm not surprised. Yeah. So the Jews is where it comes from.
Are you anti-Semitic?
No, I love the Jews. They're my favorite people.
Jews are good people.
Well, not really. I'm not saying Jews are good people. The Jews are God's chosen people, and the Jews are my Lord and Savior is the King of the Jews. And
when did you become Christian? How long ago did you become Christian?
Well, I was born into a Christian family, but I didn't really understand it until a few years ago.
Was it like 7-day Advent or something?
No, it was a Calvinist thing. It was pretty bread and butter. No, not strict. It was just not interesting. You show up to church every Sunday and do your thing and go home and watch football.
You didn't do the tulip thing?
No, I didn't get into it. I just showed up. I just went to church and listened to what they said and went home. But it wasn't until 2017 that I started to see what was, the eclipse of 2017 really woke me up. I said, "Whoa, this is impossible. This isn't this event."
Eclipses are impossible.
Well, no, it was a combination of things that happened. That would take us a while to talk.
Okay, that's fine.
Interesting, but it was basically a series of things. And if you know anything about the Book of Revelation, which I doubt you do, but if you know anything about the Book of Revelation, so Revelation 12, it talks about a sign, and that sign actually took place right after the eclipse, and that's when everything fell apart. If you remember the shooting in front of the pyramid in Las Vegas, that was just a week after. Just a week after.
You talk about the Luxor.
Yeah, right. So
yeah, I've heard this before as well, that this related to biblical prophecy, and I'm thinking about.
Yeah, it is totally.
Yeah,
because
no offense, but if that's not the height of conspiracy theory, I wouldn't even know what it would be.
Well, I'll tell you, it's crazy.
I've heard this before.
It's unbelievable, really. It's unbelievable. And when I saw it, I said, "Well, this just can't possibly be random."
Yeah, from what I understand about Revelations was written actually about Babylon, about the Holy Roman Empire, the Holy Church of Roman Church, and it was written for that time. It wasn't ever supposed to be used later on. It wasn't until later people came along like John Haig, Hal Lindsey, Late Great Planet Earth, and those kinds of people made it. Oh, look, let's make it all new agey type stuff, But I remember all that. I'm sure you're familiar and read Hal Lindsey's work, John Haig, and they kept.
I'm not that familiar with Hal Lindsey. I know the name, but I'm not really.
I actually, what's funny is he lived not too far from me. His wife used to be a customer, but okay. So Autistic Shows and my mod asked a question. She says, "I fell asleep. I have a question. Please ask him why he refuses to believe anyone except for one person. If he believes in thinking for yourself, he's holding himself locked." Yeah, so that's a good question. What is about Ron Wyatt you give such allegiance to? When again, what's the difference between that and a Mormon saying, "Hey, look, Joseph Smith, he was a great man. He discovered the golden tablets. I was in the Mormon Church for a while, so I'm a little bit familiar with that. Hey, look, I'm going to follow Joseph Smith because I believe." Do you think that there is any difference between what you're doing and any other person who wants to follow a single person? It is very, it's a lot of religiosity, don't you think?
Well, when I saw what Ron Wyatt had discovered with the Noah's Ark. I
Mhm.
paid attention. I gave him the benefit of the doubt to explain his case to me through the video that we both watched. And I watched it and I said, pretty good. I'm going to look into it further. And I looked into it further and I looked into it further.
You
And
went
the
to
more I
Turkey.
looked,
You said you went to Turkey, right?
no, I didn't go
Oh.
there. I looked into it. There's other resources. There's other
Sure.
people talking about. There's other views of it. And then I find out. Well, now they have an actual visitor center. If I wanted to,
Yeah.
I
No,
could
that's true.
take
No,
a-
that's true.
I could
You're not
take
even
a
joking.
bus and I could go
You-
walk all
you-
over the whole thing and investigate for myself.
I'm telling my audience, he's not
So
even
it's there.
joking. There is
So
a
let me ask
visitor
you a
center
question.
there. Yeah, that's true.
Humor me for a moment. Okay?
Sure.
Let's assume that we saw it and we investigated it. We said, wow, this. I don't know if it's Noah's Ark, but it does appear to be a boat, right? Let's assume that we accept that it's a boat, but we don't know for sure if it's Noah's Ark. So we reach the conclusion, okay, it is a boat. So then I ask you this question. I say, okay, we're at 6,300 foot elevation above sea level. How did it get here? And what would your answer be?
I don't think it's that high.
It's 6,300 feet above sea level.
Is it? Okay.
Mhm.
I'll go with that.
It actually slid down from 7,000 feet after a volcano covered it with lava, and it fossilized it, and then it slid down and it got hung up on a granite rock. And if you go up to its original location, because the mountain that it had landed on originally was blown up.
But are you talking about the summit, or you're talking about
the summit? Yeah, the summit.
Okay,
Because
okay.
if you look, there's a lava
It's-
flow, and it's
yeah, but it's not on the
inside
summit.
lava flow.
Yeah.
It's no longer on the summit. It was at the summit. And so it was up there. And if you go up there, there is an altar. Somebody built an altar, and then there's a rock and it has a picture of a boat with 8 people on it. So this is the altar that Noah built, and the rainbow and the whole thing so it was up there. And then later years, there was volcanic activity that covered the ark. It slid down the mountain and it covered it, so you couldn't see it anymore. And then around 1948, some guy was flying over it, took a picture of it. It got into Life magazine. Ron Wyatt saw it, went out to go look for it, found it. He couldn't get enough information. He went back. He prayed for something to happen, and there was an earthquake, and that's a documented fact. There was an earthquake, and then it dropped a lot of the soil that was around it and exposed the timbers. You could see that there were timbers in there. And then he took his crew up there with metal detectors and found
They actually found. Well, they actually found. If I remember correctly, they enlisted Andrew Snelling from Creation Answers in Genesis, and they actually took basically dowsing rods to find it.
Well, I've actually used a dowsing rod. They do work. You may not agree with them.
No,
I have used dowsing rods.
I have used dowsing rods,
and a lot of people don't believe in them, but I have used them and they work.
It's called the idiomotive effect. They don't actually work. It's just
well, my uncle, he used to be a construction worker.
Dowsing is very much
a dowsing rod to find the pipes.
Dowsing does not work. I guarantee it.
Well,
it makes it. It seems like it works.
It works. It sure does.
It seems like it is because
fool me because I can find pipes. Well,
then okay. So there's a guy named a long time ago. He passed away, but his name was James Randi. Have you familiar with him?
Yeah.
Okay. So he did these experiments with dowsing rods. Never has anybody ever been able to demonstrate that it does anything. Now.
You're wrong because I've done it and my uncle have done it, so you're wrong. So
okay, well, you can do it. You
don't have to believe it if you don't.
You can do it in a controlled experiment.
I don't care. I'm not going to defend dowsing because that's another.
Do you agree? Right, but do you remember when they found this? They were using dowsing rods.
Well, possibly. I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah,
I mean, I would.
It's true. I mean, it's true. I mean,
I believe in I believe in dowsing rods.
Ron Wright made some kind
why
of
not
contraption.
use them?
He made some kind of contraption.
He also used.
Listen, I'm telling my audience.
If I used metal detectors, do you believe in metal detectors?
Yeah, but his was not a.
Yeah, he used metal detectors.
He created some kind of electrostatic system or something like that. I don't remember the details, but
you really don't want to believe that this is Noah's Ark.
Was a dowsing rod? It's not. Yeah, I am absolutely convinced.
You can't afford to believe it's Noah's Ark.
I would love to.
Look, if you were to believe this is Noah's Ark, you'd have to re-believe every. You have to
Absolutely, yes.
you'd have to go back and
Yes.
say, wait a second, everything I thought before isn't
Yes.
true. Noah's Ark is real. The Bible's true. And then you'd have to go back and reevaluate.
Well, I
And,
wouldn't
and
necessarily
that's a
mean the
very
Bible's
uncomfortable-
true. I mean, you could still have an ark, but
Well,
it
that
not
proves
have
the Bible's true.
No, it doesn't.
Noah's Ark- yeah, it does. It proves that there was a flood.
No, it
Because
doesn't. It needs
how
to,
does a
it
boat
proves,
get
it
to
proves there was a
7,000
boat.
feet? How does it prove? How does a boat get to 7,000 foot elevation? How does it get there? And then here's the second question. Let's say they got there by water, okay, which makes sense. They got there. Now here's my second question: where did the water go?
I have no idea. Like I said,
I don't know either.
I'm trying to figure
but
out.
it's not here anymore.
I'm still trying to figure out how you get
That's a
around
big
the amount of water falling to the
That's
earth.
the problem. So if
over-
science were to admit this is a boat, if science were to say this is a boat, then the question would come up: well, how did it get there?
I wouldn't be.
That would be a very
If they
uncomfortable.
determined it was a boat, it wouldn't even
question
faze me in the
answer.
least. It would have no effect on my life whatsoever. If they
Okay, it
determined it
doesn't
was
have to.
actually Noah's Ark, that's a little bit different.
Well, you have to make that decision for yourself because the science is going to tell
I
you
couldn't care
anything.
less if it was a boat.
The science is going to
they
lie
how
to
would
you
build a boat
and
there?
tell you that this is just a
Doesn't mean nothing
fraud.
to me.
That's what they're going to do. They're not going to ever admit that is Noah's Ark.
It is.
ever.
It is funny though, because I think it's been a long while since I really had a Ron White advocate. It's because that was big years ago, and I thought all
I
that
love
died out.
Ron Wyatt. I love that guy.
You're a holdout
hang
because
my hat on everything.
there's not a lot of people that are Ron White advocates.
Well,
these
there's
days.
not a lot of people who believe the truth.
You know, it's
Well,
like
most people are going around believing in a lie.
who's the other person? Oh, like Ian Juby. Remember him? That name sound familiar?
No.
Ian Juby used to be a YouTuber, and he used to do a lot of stuff like Ron White did. Although I will give Ian Juby one credit. First of all, he has some really stupid things about dinosaur eggs. He was the one that claimed that when there was a flood and the catastrophe and all this stuff, and dinosaurs were running from the fires, they were laying eggs in these nice parallel lines, and then they came back and laid another line of eggs next to it for some strange reason. He wasn't understanding the eggs he was looking at. He got the wrong species because he wasn't an expert in paleontology, but he did get one thing right, believe it or not. He finally admitted that. Have you ever heard something called polystrate trees?
No.
Okay, so Kent Hovind used to argue that there's these objects called polystrate trees, which are these tree-like looking things in multiple strata of rock. And he said, "Hey, look, how did these trees get in rock? Must be."
Oh yeah,
flood."
I've seen that. I've seen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But what Kent Hovind doesn't tell people, because he's dishonest, is those are not trees. Those are called lycopods. They are not wood trees. They are a type of a plant that grows in bogs. And those are not rock layers. Those are sedimentation layers from annual floods. Completely.
Well, Kent does a good job on that. I don't fight that
okay,
battle.
but
Because he
here's the
does a
thing.
much better job than I
Ian
can.
Juby, I actually read one of his updates, and he actually that finally came out and said, "Yeah, these are not trees. These are lycopods. They're not evidence." I will give him credit for that.
Well, I agree with Kent on most things, but not everything. So I can't.
You do know I know Kent, right? I mean, Kent's been on my show many times.
I assume, yeah. Well, I guess, yeah.
Yeah,
We talk about him a lot, so
yeah. Kent. Well, I'm friends with his wife Cindy, or his ex-wife Cindy.
Okay.
Yeah, you familiar with her?
No, I'm not familiar with everything about Kent, but I watch it. I participate sometimes in his chat. That's about it. You know.
Yeah, Kent. I had Kent on years ago when he debated King Crockett, and then on my other channel. This is my personal channel, but I have a show called the Non Sequitur Show, which is my bigger channel.
Right.
And I had Kent on, and he debated Aaron Ra, and he just got demolished.
Well, I mean, you can debate and say, "Oh, I won the debate," but it doesn't mean that what you said is true just because you feel like you won the debate. I mean, you can debate the truth, and show that the truth is a lie, and you haven't done anything because the truth is the truth.
Well,
you can say, "Well, the truth is a lie," but
can it explain anything?
A lie. Okay.
And as I'm trying to point out, look, do you agree that throughout history there have been forgeries? The Ark of the Covenant, people selling Christ's blood, nails, all the stuff that you believe in. Do you agree, though, mainstream? You don't have to agree with their findings, but do you agree that mainstream science and history has all determined all these things to be hoaxes?
I don't care what they've determined; they're all liars.
That's fine, but you do.
Yeah, I believe that I believe that the liars lie. Yeah.
Okay. Do you believe in the Shroud of Turin?
I don't know anything. I all I know is that there's a Shroud of Turin. It may be real. It may not be real. I don't care.
Okay.
I don't care.
So
I believe that I know that there's an Ark of the Covenant, and I believe
where's the Ark of the Covenant at?
Well, Ron Wyatt.
Oh, that's right. He did find it. Yeah, no, he did claim to find it. But
he claimed to have found it.
Yeah, no, you're right. He did claim to find it. But where is it?
It's under it's under the. I'm trying to tell you. It's under the location where Jesus Christ was crucified.
And where's that location? Can I go and visit there?
Yeah, you can go and visit there. Ron Wyatt went there and he found it, and he dug up the place where there's like when they put the cross in the ground, they dig a little divot, you know. It goes down a few inches, and then you stick the cross in there, and it stays standing up. You chisel that out because it's in the rock. So he goes there and he found the plug or something that went into the rock, and then he determined from his calculations that directly below this is the cave where the Ark of the Covenant is, and there's a crack in the rock where the blood went down and went onto the mercy seat of the Ark of the Covenant. And then Ron's description of what happened is the most unbelievable thing that a lot of people sort of distance themselves because they say, Ron, that's just going too far. That's a little bit too much. But
see, this is interesting though, because Coat Hanger here, a Coat Hang 3R says exactly what I was just thinking. I thought it was the exact same thing. The shroud was supposed to cover the body of your God, and you're not caring. I thought similar. I was like, wait a minute. Here we have a tangible item. The Shroud of Turin does exist. It is a actual object.
Okay.
Now, isn't it more like? I mean, I would think it'd be at least more consistent to go, hey, I believe that actually is.
I believe it's real, but I could be proven wrong, and I don't care.
But you think this abnormal
doesn't make a difference.
Geological structure in Turkey.
You're never going to believe it's the shroud, no matter what evidence is given. Okay, you're just not going to believe it, no matter.
I'm more like, you know what's so funny? I'll give you this. I'm more likely to believe it's a shroud that covered Jesus than I am the ark. Sure, because that doesn't have any super. You know, I don't.
Well, it's got the image of him on there. It's got his image. It's pretty incredible if it's true.
Sure, I mean, but it's probably more likely a medieval.
And so you're going to have a hard time accepting that.
Well, if that's true, would you become Catholic?
Hell no.
Well, they're the ones that have but they're the ones that have the shroud.
I told you I don't care about the shroud. I don't care about artifacts. I don't care if you got the Holy Grail. I don't care if you got.
You care about the Ark of the Covenant. You care about the
Ark of the Covenant. I don't even care about the Ark of the Covenant because that's not Christian. That's for the Jews.
But it's a holy relic, right?
It is. It's more than a holy relic. It's
but you don't care about it. Yeah,
I care about it.
Yeah, I know. I've watched Indiana Jones.
Well, you probably haven't read the Bible.
I've read the Bible.
Oh, well, then it's in the Bible too.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah. I know what it looks like. Okay,
that's where I get my information.
Do you realize that everybody in these discussions has probably read the Bible before? It's not that uncommon. People have
they may have.
I've also read the Book of Mormon twice. Do you know?
Just because you read something, doesn't mean you understand it.
Do you know that Joseph Smith, he went digging and he found these golden plates? So, why don't you believe in Joseph Smith? He found these golden plates. It's a great story. I mean, he went to this hill, Palmyra.
Yeah, I saw Pulp Fiction. Did you see Pulp Fiction?
Well, hang on. No, but hey, look, I'm telling you what happened.
You know what was in the briefcase?
He had this, his soul.
No.
Yeah, it was a soul.
It was the tablets.
No, it was a soul.
It was a Joseph Smith's tablets in that briefcase.
It was the guy's soul.
And we're talking about Pulp Fiction. Remember, he opens it up and there's like a gold. Huh?
Yes, that was
there was like a gold reflection in his face.
Yeah, no. The guy that hired them to go get that the back, the two hitmen.
Yeah. What was his name?
I'm trying to think. It was Samuel L. Jackson and John Travolta. I'm trying to think of what were their names in the show, in the movie. It was John Travolta and John, I know that. But I'm trying to remember what they're called. But anyways, that when they opened that case, that was his soul. This is what they never actually say.
No, I've got this thing figured out, man. Yeah. This came to me after I was thinking about Ron Wyatt, and I thought to myself, wait a second. The Ark of the Covenant, that was the briefcase. That briefcase with the gold tablets was the Ark of the Covenant. I don't think the Mormons, because look at Jules. That was his name, Jules, right? The black guy, Samuel L. Jackson.
Okay, that was his name.
He played Jules. Now Jules is a Mormon.
I don't think was he a Mormon in that?
Yeah, because he says my girlfriend, she doesn't eat meat, and that means I don't eat meat, something like that. And then
What does that do with Mormon?
they show up at the door dressed in. There's two guys dressed in suits. They show up the door
Yeah,
and they
I
knock
remember that.
like Mormons.
Yeah,
They show up at the door.
What does
like
he
a
ever
cou-
say he's
They
Mormon,
show up at the
though?
door like a couple of Mormons, and then they go in, and then he says that he can't eat meat, and he's obviously a Mormon himself.
Mormons can eat meat? Where
All
can Mormons not eat?
I thought they were vegan.
Yes!
I thought they were
No!
vegetarian.
No!
Aren't you guys vegetarian?
No!
Well,
They
anyways, whatever.
They can't drink coffee. They can't drink alcohol.
So, anyways,
But they-
if you watch the movie Pulp Fiction again and see,
yeah,
if
I
you can
remember.
see
I mean,
so, anyways,
I remember-
the reason why I say he's a Mormon is because everybody who touches that briefcase gets killed, except for Jules, because he is the rightful protector of that Ark of the Covenant. Because he is a Mormon, and then the gold watch goes to the Great White Hope. See, so this is a big religious movie. That was not written by the guy who says he wrote it. That was written by some
Quentin Tarantino wrote the movie.
Yeah, he did not write that movie. That movie is way too good for him. Somebody really smart and on the ball wrote that movie.
I don't get me wrong. Great movie. I love it. I do think Pulp Fiction was amazing, and I do like Samuel L. Jackson in that movie.
Yeah, I tear that movie apart. I think about even the part where Butch is in the car and he just got his watch back, and the black guy's walking. Marcellus is walking across. Yeah, and he's singing a song. Counting flowers on the wall, that don't bother me. He's singing that song, and I forget, but something came to me and made me realize why that song at that moment. That movie just blows me away. It's just that movie.
I'm a big fan of Uma Thurman. I think, God, she was so perfect in Kill Bill. It was ridiculous.
But that movie has got a
Did you like Kill Bill? Because Kill Bill was amazing.
Kill Bill was a totally different vibe.
Sure,
but it was a totally different. Nothing compares to Pulp Fiction. Nothing.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of that stuff.
But I don't think that he even wrote it. I think that
I think you will admit that your interpretation is really your own, right? I've never read anything.
Well, I've never heard anybody. It came to me. I was just thinking about the Ark of the Covenant, and then boom, it came to me. I go, wait a second.
Because, like I said, I've read that people think it's Mark Wallace. It was Wallace's soul that he was trying to get back. Yeah.
The tablets, because they took the briefcase and they stole it, and just like in the Bible, when they took the Ark of the Covenant, it caused a plague on anybody who did not rightfully own the Ark of the Covenant. And the same thing with this briefcase. Anybody who did not rightfully own that briefcase was cursed. You saw everybody died, even all the way to the end where they're in the restaurant. The guy wants the briefcase. He's not going to get it. There's no way he's going to get that briefcase because Jules is the rightful protector. Also, he says something about when they're in the restaurant. He says something about eating the bacon and all this other stuff he can't eat. So I thought
when he was they can eat that. Yeah, no, they were having lunch at the diner when the couple was going to rob the place.
So you were a Jewish Mormon?
My mom's Jewish, so I'm Jewish by culture. Then I joined the Mormon church when I was 17, left when I was probably about 20 something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, now I'm an agnostic. But I do reject certain things. Like I reject, Roman gods, Greek gods. I do reject most versions of the Christian God, especially the younger creationist God. I absolutely believe that.
What about the stars in the sky? Do you believe that they held any significance?
No, I don't believe astrology. I think is absolute BS.
Not astrology. I'm talking about the constellations, not so much astrological, but that they can represent, like an eclipse. How do you explain that the moon is exactly the right size and distance from the Earth to perfectly create an eclipse? That's impossible.
Well, the thing is it's not always perfect. Matter of fact, it's what's called.
It's going to be perfect on April 8th.
You're right, but there's also times where
April 8th.
There's also times there's an annular ring.
Did you know that on April 8th there's going to be an eclipse?
Yeah, I know. My friend's going to be.
You know that it's going to go over that there's seven cities in.
We have
America.
We have eclipses
all
the time.
Did you know that there's 7 cities in America called Nineveh?
No.
And that all 7 are going to experience the eclipse with 2 or 3 of them in totality, but they're all going to experience them. And then there's another town called Nineveh in Nova Scotia, and it also will experience it. So every town named Nineveh is going to experience an eclipse on April 8th.
Well, I find that interesting. I would have to fact check that.
You know the book of Jonah?
Jonah. Is that part of the Apocrypha?
No, that's part of the Bible.
Book of Jonah. I don't remember.
Book of Jonah. It's 4 pages long. You need to read that as soon as possible.
The Old Testament has a lot of small books in there.
That's the one where he gets swallowed by a whale.
Oh yeah, Jonah and the whale. Sure.
Jonah and the whale, right? So
yeah, of course.
So, anyways, all the cities that are in that book, you got Joppa, you've got Nineveh, you've got some others. They're all in the path of this eclipse that's coming up.
And what does that mean?
Well, in the Bible, before Jesus died, he said he was preaching, and the Pharisee says, "Okay, you say that you're God. We want you to show us a sign." And he says, "There will be no sign except for the sign of Jonah." Right. So here it comes. Here's the sign of Jonah.
I'm curious. How do you spell that city?
Nineveh. Nineveh.
What state? What state does it go over?
It goes over. It starts in Eagle Pass, Texas.
There's one in Ohio. And there's one in Texas.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them, and they're all grouped pretty close together. They'll all see the eclipse with a few of them in totality. Okay. It goes up to. And here's the other thing. There was an eclipse that we were talking about earlier, August 2017. And that eclipse intersects with this eclipse at a point called Little Egypt, Ohio. And if you zoom in on it, you will see that the intersecting there's a cross at the intersection of these two.
Yeah, it says by the way, it says 99% in Nineveh, Texas. April 8th, 2024.
Right. So there's all these towns called Nineveh, and they all are going to experience the eclipse. Now, if you know the book of Jonah, how familiar are you with Jonah?
Well, I mean, I remember the story that he was swallowed by a whale, lived 3 days inside the stomach, and
then he was spit out, and he walked for 2 days, right? He walked for 2 days, and then he delivered a message to Nineveh. And archaeological and what do you call it? Historical people who study history and artifacts and all this kind of stuff, they found that there was a documented eclipse at the time of Jonah's arrival. So one of the things that the Bible doesn't tell you that took place is that in addition to Jonah arriving and giving the warning that there's going to be your city's going to be overthrown in 40 days. What additionally came along with that warning was an eclipse, although it's not mentioned in the Bible, but there is an allusion to it, because when he's sitting after he delivers the message in chapter 4, he's upset, and he goes because he doesn't want Nineveh to repent, you know.
Well, yeah. Well, hang on. Let me ask you this real quick. This same path that it took happened in 2017 too.
No, it's a different path.
Okay, but
this path goes from Eagles Pass, Texas, up to Maine.
Okay, but
the last one went from Salem, Oregon,
Salem, Idaho, Salem. Okay, but it went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Salems.
Yeah. That's true. The first one did. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
that's right. The first one did.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what happened after that? Did anything magical happen?
Actually, after that, you had Hurricane Harvey, and that was on the 25th. And
we have a lot of hurricanes.
Yeah. So Hurricane Harvey, and then after that was Hurricane Irma, and then after that was Hurricane Maria. And if you put them together, that's HIM. So him was spelled out in the those
these
letters.
These are literally arbitrary names.
Okay,
that
so
once
it
that are
happened,
in order.
but
And
it
by the way,
happened.
it's
It's
Nineveh, Texas,
documented.
Nineveh,
It's
Nineveh,
documented, and it happened. So
Ni-
you know, make of it what
Nineveh,
you will.
Nineveh,
Also,
Texas,
Joseph, Jose, and Maria came together at near same location too.
yeah,
So
it's
Jose and
Nineveh,
Maria, that's
Texas,
Joseph.
Nineveh, Missouri, Nineveh, Indiana, Nineveh,
Yeah.
Ohio,
Also, it's going to go over
Pennsylvania, Virginia.
Gord, Arkansas,
Yeah.
Arkansas, and there's a gourd in the book of Jonah, and the gourd is important because a gourd is symbolic of new birth. Okay, so new life. So when Nineveh repented, they got new life. That's what the gourd represents. But the gourd was then eaten by the worm. Do you remember any of this?
No.
The gourd was eaten by the worm, and and Jonah was very enamored with the gourd. This is strange, right? It sounds strange. He's enamored with the gourd, right? But this is symbolism, and it's telling you what's going to happen in the future.
And,
now, what's going to happen in the future? The gourd represents the rapture of the Christians. So what's going to happen, according to the prophecy that's coming, is that this eclipse that's coming on April 8th is a warning to America and the world that your destruction is coming. And
so let me say this. So here's the problem, though. People have been saying this your entire life, my entire life.
Not
in the
this.
80s. Oh, no. Listen.
Sign of Jonah?
Dude, I have lived through
Sign of Jonah?
Dude, I have probably lived through
Sign of Jonah has never been.
I've never heard anybody. Listen,
I'm talking about the
I have lived. It doesn't matter what you call it. I've lived through at least 50 times. I said the Earth is going to come to the end. The 80s were a doomsday decade where they're like, oh, Jesus will be here any minute. Oh, the end of the earth is around the corner. Why do you think Hal Lindsey and those guys made bank? Why do you think Trinity Broadcasting Network became so prevalent with Tammy Faye Baker? I mean, they're all into that. Oh, Jesus coming any day now. Oh, signs and wonders. It never happened.
Well, there's been signs for 120 years since.
And people are still waiting for 120 years. And nobody's been around for 120 years.
Well, I know, but that's why everybody's been.
You remember Ellen G. White? Ellen G. White predicted 3 times that Jesus was going to come back. She was wrong every single time.
The people were predicting that the 1800s too. In fact,
yes, that's true.
In 1914, it was predicted that the kingdom was going to return in 1914.
Weren't they waiting on the roof for him in that one?
Well, I think the Jehovah's Witnesses picked up on that too, and they kind of commandeered the research that was done on that and kind of took it for themselves.
Research. I love the way. Well, that's a really interesting choice.
Well, it is because I believe that the kingdom did come in 1914, but just not the way that we expected.
Yeah, that's pretty well. That actually, that falls in line with who is it? The Jehovah's Witnesses believe that Jesus came, but nobody recognized it.
Well, what happened in 1914? There was a strong movement that ultimately came to fruition in 1917, just a few years later, which was the Balfour Declaration, which gave the land to the Jews, carved it out for them. So that would be the beginning of the kingdom right there. So that matches. So since the book of Daniel if you calculate 2,520 years past the date of book of Daniel, you come up with the year 1914. That's how they came up with 1914, right?
And how and so you have no idea when Jesus come back then?
Well, I'm looking at the signs. Jesus says that there will be no sign except for the sign of Jonah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So when do you think it's going to be? Give me a date.
Well, we got April 8th is looking pretty strong. I think what we're looking at is I think it's going to be April 8th. But I don't know the date. Okay.
So let me ask you this:
I'll tell you why I think it's April 8th, though. I think it's April 8th because there is a comet with horns intersecting on that day. On the same day as the eclipse, there is a comet called the Devil Comet, and it matches the Revelation 12 sign on that day. So there's a lot of things going on that tell me that day is very special. Mm-hmm. And it would be the perfect day for a nuclear war.
I don't think that comet is even ever.
It would be the perfect day for a nuclear war.
I don't think that comet's going to be visible.
What comet?
The Devil Comet. That's not going to come within a magnitude to be visible.
Yeah, it'll be visible.
Is it?
On that day. And it will, on that day, it's going to intersect. Here's the funny thing about that devil comet. It's been pacing ever since the eclipse of 2017.
Well, it was discovered quite some time ago.
That's right. It's been pacing Jupiter's path for the last 6 years from a very far distance.
So the fact they called it the devil's comet, that's your sign that
at
they
this
call it
very
the devil's
moment,
comet?
let me finish. At this very moment on April 8th, the devil comet is going to intersect the path of Jupiter at the same time as the eclipse. That is the Revelation 12 sign in combination with the sign of Jonah. So you've got two signs. You've got the Revelation 12 sign of and why is that significant? Because the devil is going to try to eat the child as it's being raptured. That's the perfect date.
So how many days past August 8th? When was it? Like, it's 2024. So what happens 10 years from now? Nothing happened. Jesus doesn't come.
Well,
just modify to a new date.
From the date of August 21st, 2017 to April 8th, 2024 is 6 years, 6 months, and 6 days, or 6 weeks. I think it's 6 days. So 666. So there's that number. This is my question. Go ahead.
Give me your date. If Jesus doesn't arrive by what date would you be like, hey, something's wrong in my calculations here?
Oh, I'll just wait, because I know that the Lord will delay.
Right. So here's the problem.
I know that the Lord will delay his judgment, and I am not the person to tell God.
I have literally heard this for 50 years, and every time people make a prediction, it's always been wrong. But well, hang on. Do you agree? Yes or no? Do you agree that every single time somebody has made these predictions throughout history, every single one of them, 100% have been wrong?
Which predictions are you talking about?
About whenever Jesus is going to come back.
Well, yeah, obviously, but this is
obviously right.
But this is the sign of Jonah.
So here's the thing.
Sign of Jonah. This is the sign of Jonah.
All thought they had the right sign. They all thought this. So here's what I'm gonna leave you with, Seabass.
This is the sign of Jonah.
If by the end of this year,
this is the sign of Jonah.
Do you think Jesus will be back by the end of this year?
Yeah,
you do, right? Okay. If he doesn't, you seriously need to reevaluate your thinking process.
I don't need to do anything you tell me. I can do whatever I want.
I'm just giving advice.
Your advice you can keep. I don't need your advice.
All right. Well, let me give advice to my audience.
You've got a lot of pride in yourself.
Let me give advice to my
audience.
A
lot of pride in yourself. You like to demonstrate your pride. You like to show your blood heritage. So you got a lot of pride in yourself, but you have no belief in God.
To my audience out there, as an example,
you have no faith.
When you have somebody that starts using these types of quackeries, then you have to recognize that, one, they're irrational. Two, they're not thinking.
And you're not my judge.
Well, I understand that, but
you don't know anything about me.
Right.
And you're judging me without any knowledge. You're just a fool. You got a lot of pride, and you think you have the ability to judge other people.
I'm gonna to talk to my audience. Okay, so I want to thank you for coming up here, Seabass. I appreciate it. We had a nice conversation. Welcome back anytime. Okay. I didn't remove him. He left. I honestly I didn't remove him. He left on his own accord. Yeah. So to my audience out there, this is what's called a crank. This is somebody that I've experienced numerous times throughout my life from a very early age that has made new age predictions. I had an uncle that believed at one time that razor blades would stay sharp if you put them under a pyramid. Yeah. I've done the dowsing thing. Never believed it really worked because I recognized even early on that there was probably my hand doing it. So I never really believed in dowsing, although I thought, wow, this is pretty cool. It does, I can see why somebody is fooled into believing dowsing works, because it messes with your mind. It's a psychological effect, but that's all it is. Dowsing has never been able ever to been demonstrated to work. It's quackery. Everything he said is quackery. You can make a relationship for anything. Now, I do find it interesting that paths go through certain cities, and there might be some reasons to that. They might actually name cities because they know that paths are going to go through certain things, right? That might be completely the case. I mean, the fact that, in 2017, there was a total eclipse that went through 8 cities named Salem doesn't mean witches are real. But I mean, anybody who follows, Ron Wyatt, you obviously, probably not going to be too mentally stable. It has been long since established that Ron was a con man. He was an archaeological fraud, and if somebody wants to follow him around for his entire, their entire lives, that's their choice. But it's not really, if anybody could be considered to be rational mind. And when somebody starts, talking about the canopy theory, it's like, come on. But this is what I'm trying to teach to people out about critical thinking. And I know we didn't get through the video. Sorry, Singlehandedly proves atheism was a fraud, repent and believe. But I think we got through he gets into the Bible stuff the second half, so no big loss. But I mean, I hope you guys could see there's a great discrepancy between me trying to explain to him science and him just going, nope, it's a chariot wheel, when absolutely nobody in history would ever think that a wheel from a ship is the same thing as a chariot wheel. Nobody. So I appreciate that. Like I said, no, I don't even say I know my stuff when it comes to the sciences. Is that I know the basics enough to know how to explain certain things. Like, for example, I didn't remember cesium-133. I thought it was cesium-137 and 135. I should have remembered it was 133. And after I saw it, I remember it was 133. But I remembered enough to know that the second was defined by cesium. I don't remember how many wavelengths it was from crest to crest, but it was like 9 billion something. But I don't memorize that kind of shit. If I need to look it up, I'll look it up. But all I got to remember is how is a second defined? Oh, it has to do with the frequency of microwave radiation from the cesium atom. That much I remembered, and I was right. And so you don't have to memorize things verbatim. You don't have to be myopic in your details. You just have to understand the concepts well enough to go, okay, I remember it having to do with cesium. Let's go look it up. Google's your friend when for that. I look up a lot of shit. I've just been lazy tonight. And so I thank whoever looked that up. I did eventually look it up as well, but I think it was Honest Frida looked it up. Thank you. But this was fun. This was really fun. Wasn't what I expected, and I really do appreciate Seabass coming on. Nice guy. Likes to interrupt a lot, but whatever. But I'm happy to have him come back on again. More power to him. Hope you got some enjoyment out of it. And I'm gonna go to bed because I'm tired. I gotta get up. My roommate's going, God damn it, Steve. Are you tired?
No.
Really?
I'm playing my video game.
Oh. Well, I was going to end this anyways. So, anyways, good night, guys. Thanks for watching this. Hope you guys got something out of it. Let me know in the comment section what you thought. Please leave a like, subscribe, and definitely comment because I do read the comments. But let me know what this went south. It wasn't a dumpster fire, but I got to tell you, when you start getting into all these prediction stuffs, I tune out because I've heard so many predictions for so many years, and not one of them has ever came true. And I think it's really hubris to say, "Oh, well, this prediction's this is the real one. This is the not forget all the other mistakes." That's how scam artists works. That's how con men work. Forget the misses, but remember the hits. And there has never been a hit about Jesus' return, not one. And what will happen is, and I will predict this. I'll make my own prediction. There'll be an eclipse in April. I think it was on April 8th. Nothing spectacular will happen. A year from now, Jesus won't be back. 2 years from now, Jesus won't be back. 5 years from now, Jesus won't be back. And he'll still find another thing to say, oh, well, it was a miss. But you know what? The next time it's this, because that's exactly what John Haig did. That is exactly what Hal Lindsey did. They literally made a prediction. And then when it didn't come true, not only did they double down on it, say they made a calculation error, they changed the editions of their book. John Haig went back and rewrote the subsequent editions that printed out the older material stuff and took out some of that stuff and changed the dates in it. That's dishonesty. These people are con men. And this guy, unfortunately, has bought into it. That's fine. But prophecy is a con game. Yes. So with that, good night, guys. Thanks for watching. This was really different. I like this. This was fun. Thank you, Seabass. Good night.